Good morning. Yes. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us. This brand new salary week. It's an exciting season for us. We're hoping that as you're counting down to receiving your alerts, you're already making plans, and that your alerts don't disappear before it even gets into your account. Because it is Happy Salary Week. Every day this week, I'm going to start the show by saying Happy Salary Week. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. For the next 3 hours, we're taking you through some very interesting breaking news. Another fake agency has been discovered within the office of the Secretary General of the Federation. We'll be bringing you the details of this in a moment. My name is Olejeme. I shall now hand over to the Johansson-led leader of the show. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Lagos. Hello, Nigeria. Fresh from the yard, you know. Me have to say so.
You know what I'm saying?
Jamaica.
Yeah, man. Pop. They will ask if we are not.
Give him a run. Give him a run. Early morning exercise.
Four side. Finger.
Remind me of those days in Kingston, Jamaica.
Wow.
What you feel doing at Kingston, Jamaica?
I be the learn walk. Just reminds me of one time that Pato Rankin went to Jamaica. You know? We were speaking Patois to you. You say, eh? Say what?
You say what?
I know this. I.
Yes, say. Welcome to Breakfast Central.
So you're a man of many
this is how we roll. Just in case you're tuning in for the first time.
Like egg roll.
We are known to be very vibrant. Don't worry. This is a mixture of millennials, Gen Z, and of course, dating back to your old school.
Me, I be Gen Z.
You know, it's a mixture, and we have a potpourri, like they'll call it in English, of every single thing that we have lined up for you. By the way, my name is Johansson. Binga, how was your weekend? A lot has happened.
Yeah, so many things happening. It's great to be here. Good morning, the world and Nigeria. So many things happening, but I'll come closer to home in Lagos. I mean, the potholes ran its ugly head. In every corner, it's not reflective of a state that refers to itself as sector of excellence. We still are managing the waste crisis. The PSPs aren't doing regular rounds as they should, so there's a lot of filth across the roads and in people's streets and estates. So please, Lagos State government, the tenure of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is not yet over, and please, let's do the needful before the next government takes over. It seems like they've almost given up, but governance is continuous. And there was controversy over the weekend, so many controversies. Olive did mention the fake agency news, and also one of the top contenders for the next governor of Lagos State. He made a statement in an interview with Nigerian Info that has gone viral, and many people are very angry. I am one of those who are angry that, please, there was a man called Lateef Jakonde, an administrator par excellence, that did a lot for public and social housing. How would you say that
people should live in with
that earn 100,000 naira a month shouldn't look forward to having their own accommodation?
So let's be fair and ask the question that he was asked.
Face me, I face you, or self-contained become luxury?
The question that he was asked was about people, salary earners who earn 100 million naira. And that's, in case you don't know who we're talking about, the current deputy, 100,000 naira, the current deputy governor of Lagos State. And I was talking about young people who earn 100,000 naira a month, but yet cannot afford to pay rent for 1 million. And in his explanation, in his response to that, he then talks about how, you know, a number of people are putting themselves under pressure. It's okay to live with your parents and all of that. And there was a backlash. Now, is there sense to that argument? Yes. But the person that it came from is where the issue is, because typically the government is supposed to be looking at how to solve
challenges. I expect that sort of comment from a pastor or motivation.
Exactly. So that's what I'm going to say. There's nothing wrong in that argument. If today I could live with my parents, if my parents had the house that I could live in and not pay rent, I will happily do it. Honestly, it's not bad advice. It's just the fact that it came from government, and the government is supposed to be solving the problems of citizens, and it just
Thank you for that.
Some type of way. Anyway, let's get into the conversation, but let's start by wishing Ochodi a very happy birthday. Please help me pass the bell. I need to ring bell for Ochodi. Thank you so much.
Is this somebody you know personally?
No, but by virtue of YouTube, I know him.
Oh, okay, Ochodi.
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday to you.
All right, let's get into the
action on a Monday morning. Our knuckles cracked and we're ready to roll, but please, Feel free to drop a comment or two on all socials. That's where we're streaming from. Our first story definitely would be one that has made the rounds from the entire, or all over, throughout the weekend, if you want to put it that way. But let's start off first with one very interesting story. And not every time people would say, you guys are always looking out for this particular type of story, but let's start with this one. Over the weekend, authorities arrested some people for allegedly creating what they call illegal U-turn along the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road and collecting money from motorists to use them. Benga, this is a fallout from what we've done.
I think you raised this question so many months ago.
So many months ago. The three out of all that were arrested, 3 of them among 12 suspects arrested over alleged vandalism and other unauthorized activities on the highway as the federal government moves to tighten enforcement along the road. Don't forget that they have coastal guards, coastal road guards, Lagos-Ibadan road guards. But with people allegedly creating their own openings and charging motorists to use them, how did this become possible in the first place, you may ask? And what does it say about the monitoring, I beg your pardon, of a road that is supposed to be one of Nigeria's major highways? Just take a look at the road you can see there on the screen. That's the coastal, Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. And people have been nabbed, have been caught. Remember, a few months ago, about 4 months ago here, we did our own private investigation, and then we put it out there on television, alerting the government of what was happening, how they were destroying the infrastructure and creating illegal U-turns. But let's get to see what people are saying about this. Like we did mention, some persons were caught, and it was a good development, guys, that eventually, while Benga is still complaining about the bad roads, I think Lagos State decided to listen to what we had said 4 months after. It may take long, but I mean, 4 months, as long as they've caught them. But we're still going to apply this route to...
Who kudos should be given to? Is it Lagos State government or the Ministry of Works?
Absolutely.
Let's eat or not eat another person's glory.
Let's see the video. Let's see the video. Let's get to see what it looked like.
We have another three of them here that created illegal U-turn on the coastal road. They were like collecting money. They give U-turn to people, and then they collect money from them. All of this is not tolerated on the coastal road. And let me use this medium also to announce to Lagosians and Nigerians, we don't want trailer to park on coastal road. Coastal road is not a trailer park. It is a super highway. You enter it from Eko Atlantic and you go straight to Calabar. If you are dropping in Ogun State, you stop. You are dropping in Akwa Ibom, you are dropping in all the 9 states that this road is going to pass. So there's no keke on the coastal road. It's very, very important. If you drive bicycle, if you drive tricycles, you will be arrested. You will be arrested, and it will be confiscated, and you will never see it again. You will never take it back again. Let me announce, we don't want trailer to park on coastal road. We don't want keke on coastal road. Tricycle, we don't want them on coastal road. Illegal U-turn, we don't want them on coastal road. Destitute, we don't want them on coastal road. Rearing of animals, rearing of goats and sheep and cows is banned on coastal road. These are all that we don't want. If your vehicle breaks down, call on the police. They can easily help us. We have road safety there that will help you. But if you leave it there, that vehicle will be towed away.
All right, so that's the riot act being read out there after 3 were nabbed. There's also a video of these guys who definitely were on the floor seated and they were caught. Good development. That's what we're going to start on the Monday morning to say kudos, like we always say, when the government or those who are saddled with the responsibility to do well actually do well. It's our job as a fourth realm of the, or fourth estate of the realm to actually notify them for the good job they've done. I don't know what you guys have to say about this.
I mean, I believe the gentleman that was speaking there is the controller of the Federal Ministry of Works, and kudos to them. But let's hope it's consistent. And also, there's a problem of vagrants. They've moved them away from that Eco Hotel access. Immediately you get to the coastal road to your left. There used to be a tent city, you know, entire housing community made of tarpaulin.
Yeah.
And that's where some of these guys that vandalize in the night, they go around, they're very familiar with the area. They remove the fences, the manholes and all of that. But we've not gotten rid of that problem entirely, and it goes to show the problems of social housing and homelessness that we have in this city. So if you go further down that road, they've moved. So they've dispersed them from the kilometer 1 of the coastal highway. They've gone further down. But however, what we need is consistent enforcement, because I mean, there's a high level of poverty, and these people feel, you know, these are low-hanging fruits. These are the only things you can see from that drone shot. They fenced off, so people that are driving on that road won't be able to see what's going on the other side. They fenced parts of the coastal road. But my point is, and also there are different ways to look at it. The coastal road guards, I believe their numbers are small for the scale of the road and the project in the first place. So they might look at improving their efficiency and that. But so far, so good. Kudos to them. But what the bigger picture is, what would make a grown human being go about selling, stealing scrap metal, vandalizing government infrastructures to sell? It's a poverty problem. And also, they need to find the source, the buyers, the willing buyers that are willing to, you know, buy things that are taking off critical road infrastructure. Once you stop the demand, you will stop the supply chain.
Okay, I'm going to pick up from where Benga left off. Now, in speaking about the coastal highway, first of all, kudos for the arrests that have been made, but I want to start with the sufficiency or otherwise of the coastal guards. Now, the coastal guards were established on the 9th of August, 40 officers for the initial rollout. And those 40 officers are to man a 750-kilometer highway, which means 1 guard per 19 kilometers. Can we guarantee that this number is enough to be able to regulate the amount of damage that is being implemented on that coastal highway? Let me run through some of the things that have happened on the coastal highway between January 2026 and now. So far, we have 1,800 manhole covers stolen, 1 kilometer of Clearview fencing destroyed, 75 directional signs removed since January. These are just some of the things that have happened on that way. So the question is, are these 40 people enough? These 40 trained officers, I believe, are they enough to be able to guard the coastal highway and ensure that we don't see a continuity of these stealings? And like Benga mentioned earlier when he was speaking, he talked about the willing buyers and the willing sellers. Who are the people selling these things? Who are the people buying for them? Until we deal with this black market, we'll continue to see a repetition of that. I would say kudos to them, but we need to look at the efficiency of having just 40 people. I'm going to stay with the part that it is the initial rollout. So hopefully there will be subsequent people, subsequent guards rolled out to ensure the guarding.
I love the calculations you did with regards to 1 man to the number of kilometers. That's what Burna Boy calls kilometer.
Okay, let's see what Nigerians are saying at this juncture. Let's see what Nigerians are saying very quickly. How Nigerians are reacting to this. In this case, some places requires a local road, additional bridge for residents. Imagine I live in estates beside Elegushi Beach. So you advise me to get a car and take a 5-kilometer U-turn every day just to buy little stuff, go to school or work. Also consider low-income earners along the Ajah axis. I don't want them to use a coastal road either, but at least provide alternative routes.
Well, they'll tell you the Lekki Ekpe is still existing. You can buy that.
But he has a point, and I'm going to explain that later on. But in the course, the turning, before you can get to the turning off the coastal road to say you're going to Jakonde, it has been blocked now. So you have to go further down as if you're heading towards Ibrahim Adesoya to turn. Wow. And that's a big, you're talking about fuel, you're burning fuel, you're driving longer distances.
I mean,
so is it safe to say that there was not proper thinking or adequate planning in the
That's why it's called a highway. If you're on the Autobahn in Germany, it will take quite a long time. You'll have to get to an exit or a bridge to make a U-turn. Yeah. That's why it's called, it's a super highway. Cars are normal. It's not your commercial, I'm going to buy groceries,
but there should be
go in and out.
So what you're saying is...
Yeah, but they're turnings. It's just that they're further down.
But the turning is quite a distance.
Well, then...
But you cannot neglect the fact that there are adjoining areas that are linked along and communities. What's happening now is these communities have been completely cut off. However, if you want to connect to these communities, you have to go further down to turn. And that's what people are talking about.
So that means it goes back to what I'm saying, that maybe, is it safe to say maybe there wasn't adequate planning in establishing that. That's one. Then two, it doesn't justify the people breaking down these roads to create an artificial U-turn.
Illegal U-turns.
It's really sad.
And then safety too. You can't be slowing down to turn every time. It would hold traffic and traffic will move. And for those real estate men and entrepreneurs that were shouting, you're 2 minutes from Coastal Highway view, well, you can't eat your cake and have it. Enjoy.
Let's see.
Petrol.
Anyway, let's go back to
see
what
you're
Nigerians are
renting
saying.
your house. Let them give you 50 kg of petrol.
Yeah, that's harsh. He lost me at, you moved from Echo Atlantic straight to Calabar. Which Calabar is he talking about? Because Coastal Road presently ends at Lagos, at Ekpe. It hasn't even got into Ogun State.
No, it's in
the way
Ogun State.
politicians
Yeah,
and government officials lie is unbelievable.
They are
Please,
way into Ogun State.
Port Harcourt to Calabar Road that already exists. And that is a major conversation that people are talking about. You can't make such a statement without a highway code or law to back it up. That's another angle. See this one. So I cannot ride a bicycle on the walk. And it is a super road. Well, we wouldn't say it's foolishness. It's a directive, and it's what the road is built for. This one laughs. He says, he's saying Lagos to Calabar Road, we no pass for 7
No, that's not true.
We never even come out for Lagos since 2 or 3 years now. Oof. Okay, a final take. Wait until Abokia Fulanis patrol their cows on the same coastal road, and
that would not happen.
Let's see, they will judge. Well,
that will not happen.
Let's leave that. But just to mention, over the weekend, a guy put out a video. Cows were on the expressway coming down to Woroshoki. He almost lost his life, and he put out that video on social media. He was screaming and calling Lagos State Governor, "What is going on? How would you allow it?" They were black cows. And it was at night. It was he said how he survived.
It's a safety hazard.
Did not know.
Yeah.
He had to park, come out and do a video. But let's move on to our next story. Wake Up Conversation is up and running. Your comments are indeed necessary. Big one.
Can I just read from YouTube as well?
Yeah.
On YouTube, Michael Zu says, the coastal road is the greatest waste of the century. All the installments on the coastal road will be stolen because the police will extort on the road and ignore or even collect roja from scavengers. So good morning. Thank you to our virtual audience. And Mr. Prince Hajibadi, I'll give you a response before the show ends. But yes, these are some of the complaints that we've heard regarding the coastal road. And I think the highlight of it is the fact that there is a character problem. There is a flaw in our society where everyone looks for the slightest opportunity to extort another. This morning on my way to work.
It's poverty.
In front of Freedom Way. Joe, you know this axis very well. Those trailers, you will see that there will be traffic. What is the traffic? Agbero is trying to collect money from them. So they will block the road.
So early in the morning.
Early in the morning, as early as 5 a.m. And they're collecting, bribe from them. But let's move away from, the moral decadence that has then been displayed on the coastal way to what some have called another moral decadence in our government. How does a government office that doesn't officially exist end up with space inside the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation? That is the question that is coming out now. And you would think I'm talking about the PFIPC. No. This is the latest twist in the Gbajagate scandal. It is an offshoot of the Gbajagate scandal. Now, this discovery was made during the ongoing investigation into the controversial Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, PFIPC. And it has now led President Bola Tinubu to order the arrest of Prince George Buchi Nwabueze and suspend 3 permanent secretaries. Now, beyond the arrest and suspension, this raises a bigger concern about how much oversight there really is within government offices, because if an unauthorized agency could secure office space inside the SGF's premises, who approved it? Who knew about it? And could there be more than we simply haven't discovered yet? And just to mention that the name of this agency is the National Brands Development and Made in Nigeria Special Project Office. The promoter is Prince George Nwabueze, and the permanent secretaries who were fired was MS Danjuma, Nadungu Gagare, Richard P. Filangwa. Now, here we see a letter. In the letter, this Prince George Nwabueze has pushed back, denied the allegations of illegality or fakeness that has been ascribed to this agency, stating that it's a legal agency that was established, and now the cankerworm has been opened. Gentlemen?
I think we should look at what the ICPC boss had to say about the another alleged fake agency again. In his statement, he said another one was uncovered. And you begin to wonder, how many fake agencies do we have? But just to mention quickly, you had talked about the letter we showed on the screen. There has been a pushback from the DG himself, and he said it's not fake. Apparently, he says the agency had already existed before President Bola Tinubu actually came to office. But let's get to listen to the ICPC boss, and then we can dissect some more.
By ICPC to Mr. President on the ongoing investigations into the fake Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, PFIPC, and procedural weaknesses in the public service. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has uncovered another fake agency and office operating under the name National Brands Development and Mandates in the Nigeria Special Project Office, which had been illegally allocated office space within the premises of the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. In light of the above, Mr. President has directed that the ICPC provide information surrounding this development in the spirit of transparency and accountability. The discovery of the fake office/agency, National Brands Development and Made in Nigeria Special Project Office by the ICPC was made in the course of ICPC's broader investigation as earlier directed by Mr. President, His Excellency President Bola Tinubu, GCFR. The fake agency/office, National Brands Development and Made in Nigeria Special Project Office, was promoted by one George Buchi Nwabwezi, with active suspected collaborators in the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, contrary to the external laws and without authorization of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The promoter, George Buchi Nwabwezi, was discovered to also operate under 4 other variations of his name: George Nathan Nwabwezi, Honorable George Buchi Nwabwezi, Prince George Buchi Nwabwezi, and George Buchi and George Nwabwezi. The ICPC has interacted with the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation with a view of ascertaining vital information with regard to the fake agency/office under investigation. I have briefed Mr. President comprehensively on these new developments.
Okay, so apparently what I heard most was almost everybody there was George.
So it's the same person.
Same person.
He just has different aliases. It's just like now. You
Like
can
a
say
movie, like a
Olive. I'm not a fraud, please.
No,
but
like just use a movie.
movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Joe Schwarzenegger. Joe Schwarzenegger. Arnold Joe. Arnold.
One man.
Yeah, so he just uses different variations.
At the end of the day, the ICPC boss in this press conference, speaking with so much gusto, like they discovered something major. But all the fingers point back to the presidency and to the government. This is an indictment, it's an embarrassment on the federal government of Nigeria. And you might have sacked some permanent secretaries in the federal ministry, but that's not enough. And I think it was just, they happen to be scapegoats, and unfortunately, it's deeper than that.
Yeah.
These are career civil servants that have spent upwards of 20 years in the service. They're guided by rules, and I don't think they'll just wake up one morning and approve things they're not supposed to approve, knowing that their life work is at stake, their reputation. They might not even get a pension, because I think civil service rules, if you're dismissed, you would not be entitled to a pension. So I don't think they'll risk it all for a few millions here and there. So we need to, and I find it really nauseating that the head of an agency or department of government will come out and say, Mr. President has said that we should, did the MD of
You do not know the
Central
work
tell us to come and ring bail this morning and speak? Don't you know your work and your primary responsibility? It's really, Mr. President is dealing with a lot. Enough of the eye service, Mr.
It's
President
much. It's
said.
quite much.
Thoroughly investigate this. This is 2026.
It's quite much.
We need to drop that. So this is just the beginning. Just like the way the Prince Adeyemi case unraveled, after several days, we got new information. And I'm happy Prince Nwabweze, or Mr.
That's
is
kickback.
fighting. I don't know why I called him Prince.
No, he's not. No Prince.
Yeah, Mr. Nwabweze is a kickback. And is, you know, we need to get to the root of this. And it shouldn't be a charade like what we saw with Prince Adeyeme's case.
I mean, just to add very quickly, for Nigerians who are wondering where are these agencies coming from, till date, nobody has heard from the embattled Prince Adeyemi. He has not appeared before the Senate committee to say his own story. He has been told that he can't speak while others have spoken. We still, as journalists who are covering this event and this entire scenario, we're still wondering what the situation really is.
Well, the lawyer
is he going to be allowed to come and speak? He's supposed to be allowed to come and speak because, remember, the ICPC, they said they're done with their own investigation, done, sealed, closed. And
they even submitted an interim report.
Exactly, but how do you submit an interim report when the accused there has not even had a chance
talk to you
speak?
One-on-one.
That's one.
Man to man.
If we go back to what we're seeing here, all right, this is the National Brand Development Made in Nigeria special project.
And long.
Just to mention, Mwabuzi has kicked back. He said, one, it is not an agency. It is an office under the office of the Secretary General of the Federation. It is not an agency. He said it had been in existence for the past 16 years, dated to July 15, 2010. When did President Muhammadu Buhari get into office? If you calculate, add to President Bola Tinubu, who's the current president now, it's not up to 16 years. So he said it had been in existence 16 years, meaning that if you date back, it falls under President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's, time in office. That's one. Two, if you check, some journalists have gone as far as checking the Appropriation Act of 2026
to see
it is not registered as an agency there. So the ICPC boss, we need to understand how it's being tagged as an agency when the Appropriation Act of the Federal Republic of Nigeria does not term it in quotes to be an agency, rather an office.
All right, there are those who have argued. I mean, just to pick up from where you've left off, yes, it was set up in 2010. We're now 2026. That's 16 years. At the time, Mahmoud Ahmed was SGF governor. President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was the president at the time. So there are those who argue that it's not, like you said, it's not an agency, that it's, like a committee set up. And the president does have powers to set up a committee without legislative backing, subject to Section 5 of the Constitution. And they can function under the office of the Secretary General to the Federation.
Secretary of the Government.
Secretary of the Government of the Federation. Thank you very much. That being said, the question is, for 16 years, how has this institution, because I don't know what to call it now, whether to call it an agency
or a
committee, how has this office been able to carry out functions? They have staff, they pay people salaries. How have they been able to exist for 16 years, and how are they all of a sudden being found out as a fraud? Does this then point out to a flaw in several systems? And regardless of the fact that many will say was not established in this current administration, but they were inherited. They have an office within the SGF. They have an office allegedly under the SGF. So the question is, how were they able to run? Prince Adeyemi's situation might be actually a blessing in disguise. And if there was a thorough, I would argue that if the Oronsoye report was implemented,
God bless you,
there would have been a lot of exposure that has occurred.
Scrutiny.
Because last year, 2025, President Bola Tinubu gave a committee, he set up a committee and gave them the assignment to ensure the applicability of the Oronsoye report in 12 weeks. For those who don't understand what the Oronsoye report is, basically the suggestion was that we're running an over-bloated government and that a lot of ministries, departments, and agencies need to be collapsed. In the process of doing that, there would have been some thorough investigation that would have been carried out that will let them know this MDA or this ministry or this department or this agency is not legal, it doesn't have federal backing. And there would have been a lot of sweeping that would have been done. We would not have gotten to this. I want to argue that we probably wouldn't have gotten to this. But it's a great step in the right direction that all of this is coming to light. The question is, what are the next steps? What is the latest with Prince Adeyemi? And beyond making these grand announcements in the media, would we see any arrests? We will see any prosecution? Because if at some point a body or an office touts itself or positions itself in the form of an agency carrying out certain duties that should only have been able to carry it out with legislative backing, at that point, does it then become a crime?
Olive, we've seen the termination of the appointment of 2 permanent secretaries. Is that
3?
3.
Yeah.
Does that mean does that mean business, or it's just a cover-up? And what thorough investigation did they do to arrive at the fact that they need to sack these permanent secretaries?
Well, to be honest, at this point, we can't really speak to a lot of that. We're just going to watch. They say in Nigerian Palace, and I say, don't look with it. We're watching, we're asking questions, we're holding the government to account and asking how exactly have these people been able to survive? And does this point to the fact that there's a possibility of other agencies or offices that do not have any legislative backing whatsoever?
And don't forget that the Office of the Secretary General of the Federation...
Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
SGF.
I mean, I was with someone and the person said too many agencies, too many government, sub-government. That's why the Oronsaye report would have knocked off a lot of multiplicity in terms of government agencies and government arms. Like the report said, just make these things, shrink them, let them operate in a simpler term. But let's see what Nigerians are saying. Very quickly, some prominent Nigerians are already reacting to it. Former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Zacch Adedeji, already took to X, had a spokesperson talk about it. They said it's quite a surprise. But let's see what Nigerians are saying on X very quickly. Let's get their reactions. The last fake agency, federal government, was both the judge and jury, but this must be different. Someone in APC or Tinubu's cabinet can't be creating fake agency and they will be covering it. That's what he feels. Donald J. Trump, okay, this is parody.
Yeah,
it's not the real Donald Trump.
Yeah, I don't know why we took this.
But I think he made some points. That's why producer decided to say, if these documents are genuine, then this matter has gone beyond calling it a fake agency. Nigerians deserve to know who authorized it, who funded it, and how far the SGF's office was involved. This needs a proper investigation, not silence and political damage control. Let's move on to another tweet very quickly. And this is a genuine point of campaign for the opposition. If they're serious, it's now 2 and there could be more. The civil servants knows the loopholes, and all they need to do is to plug the politicians into it, and it becomes a conduit pie. I
don't agree with that, but let's continue.
I heard a ghost copper and ghost worker, but I never heard of ghost administration. This suggests that the earlier fake agency scandal may not have been isolated. How did a supposedly fake agency gain space inside such a sensitive government office? The SGF processes need a thorough audit with accountability for anyone who enabled or ignored the loopholes. Anyway, that's all we're going to take.
Okay, we're also streaming live on YouTube. If you'd like to drop your thoughts about these stories, the ones we've discussed so far, News Central TV Live is where we are on YouTube. Please head there and drop your comments. Just to take a few comments. Michael Zu says, these stories about fake agencies are false. The agencies are there to siphon money. But the problem between Adeyemi and Gbaja is making dubious federal government officials to have a rethink. Billions are already lost. And then we have Frank Obute says, very soon, another agency for pepper chicken. That would be a nice one. And then...
Anasun,
right? Femi Olagunju says, no agency can operate successfully in Nigeria without a link within the presidency. This is an embarrassment to democracy. We have a lot of ghost workers drawing salaries till now. And Marcus McCain says, all the fake agencies are well aware by the APC government. Nathan Emmanuel says, fake agencies just keep coming up because I guess maybe these people are settling themselves since Mr. President has forgotten them. Allegedly, anything less than removing the AGF, then this APC government are yet to be responsible. These are the comments we are able to take this morning on Breakfast Central, but keep them coming. This is one of our top stories today. So we're going to be looking at it in depth. We'll have analysts joining us to thoroughly look at the nooks and the crannies of this story. But that's not the only top story. Let's share with you what our other top stories this morning are. This morning on Breakfast Central, we'll be assessing mob justice in Nigeria and the threats to rule of law. And then we'll be bringing the controversy trailing NRS boss Zacch Adedeji's inclusion in APC campaign council. That was a very big story over the weekend. State policing in Nigeria, IGP says PCRC is critical to successful implementation. We'll be building credit and financial reputations this morning in our conversation with our analyst. And we'll review the newspaper front pages as well. Stay with us this morning on Breakfast Central.
Hello, welcome back to Breakfast Central. Fresh controversies brewing ahead of the 2027 elections over the reported inclusion of the chairman of the Nigeria Revenue Service, Mr. Zacch Adedeji, in President Bola Tinubu's re-election campaign structure. The development has drawn criticism from both opposition figures, and former Senator Dino Melaye reportedly heading to court to challenge the appointment and raise questions about the involvement of a serving public official and head of a major revenue-generating agency in partisan political activities.
While supporters may argue that political participation is a constitutional right, critics are questioning whether such involvement could affect public perception of neutrality and independence of government agencies. The controversy is now opening a wider debate about the line between public service and partisan politics as Nigeria moves closer to 2027. Joining us as we discuss this is legal practitioner, national development advocate. We have him here. Judo Logo joins us here this very interesting Monday morning. Thank you so much for making it here on a Monday morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
All right. So we can reel out some names. We have the boss of Nigeria's revenue service. We also have some names that netizens, Nigerians in general, are reacting to.
Betta
names such as the embattled Betta, who was allegedly sacked for having diverted the sum of 585 million naira to personal accounts.
There's also the
we also
DG
have
of NIMS.
Ngozi. Yes, we also have Ngozi
Olejeme,
a former, person of the NSTF. NSTTF.
NSITF.
I beg your pardon. NSITF. She was also found for financial misconduct. And the list goes on and on and on.
There's
and then
also
you have
the current Minister of Defense, yes.
current Minister of Defense as
General
well.
Christopher Musa, retired.
Yes. Well, we can go on. You also have two former battled governors who had served their term, and they came out from, serving their term, yet they've also been listed. Absolutely. What do you make of this?
Thank you very much. You see, we are going round a circle because the first thing that came to my mind was what the president himself went through towards 2023 elections when CBN suddenly decided to change the currency and different kinds of battles. And one would have expected that given the response from the stakeholders there, particularly touching on credibility, because credibility simply means the trust rating of a process. I think we should have gone beyond that. And again, talking about the involvement of some of these appointees, the argument is always that, oh, they are not public servants. They are political appointees. But if you consider Section 84 of the Electoral Act as amended in 2022, it specifically states that political appointees who intend to be delegates at the primaries of parties or, seek office should resign, I think about 30 days before that exercise. And that was why the likes of Amechi had to resign, and Dr. Chris Ngige, even though they never made it at the primaries level. But my concern now, I am dropping on the table of the National Assembly, because Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended states clearly that the National Assembly is mandated to make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good government in Nigeria. And the debate that has been prompted by this recent revelation is a test of orderliness in the country. But again, some will argue, by virtue of Section 66 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that yes, a public servant that wants to get involved in elections should resign before doing that. And some are now saying Adedeji is not in the public service. is a political appointee. And we are not talking about primaries of the parties now. And these are things we call lacuna. You know, so it's a function of the law. Because for those who want, you know, even when that Section 84, you know, received that powerful amendment, a lawyer rushed to court I think, Umwa here, to state that that amendment was a nullity, in line with the fundamental human rights that we have in the Constitution, and making reference to Section 1 sub 3 of the Nigerian Constitution 1919 as amended, that says any enactment that runs contrary to the provisions of the Constitution, it cannot stand. But it did not, even though the Honorable Justice Evelyn declared it as a nullity, they proceeded to test it, and that is why Ngige had to resign. And so we need to concretize our laws in this country and prevent all these arguments. And I think on the scale of credibility, you know, this list is out now. Personally, I'm still waiting for denials and to say, oh, this list is not the authentic one, and somebody just disclosed it. But if the party is bold to proceed with it, you know, the scale of trust will be shaken. Because you mentioned the case of Ngozi Olejeme.
Yeah.
Okay, some are just reading that she's involved in an allegation involving about 1 billion, that of Betta Adedeji. Even before now, I think in year 1907, is it? No, 1997 or thereabout, the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, appointed one Dr. Okoli to go and revamp the NSITF. And the man resumed. And 2 years down the line, Olejeme was the chairman of that body. They came up with allegations against Dr. Okoli and sent him on indefinite suspension without investigation. Because I teach it in employment law, you know, and I'm very... I like that. And Dr. Okoli went to court. And at a point in time, they all had to settle out of court because the matter was now pushed to the police. I think Onovo was the IG then. And the police investigations came out with a report that there was nothing like those allegations against Dr. Okoli.
Wow.
Like some wicked people just concocted within and outside the system to push him out. So he got all his benefits and everything, though he was not reinstated. You see, so we should touch on the characters of people that flock around leadership. But again, if you look at Section 36, sub 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, I think it's a turbulent provision we have.
Very.
In that Constitution.
Yes.
That says that
presumption of innocence.
In a criminal matter, you know, allegations must be proved beyond all reasonable doubt. Otherwise, the defendant is presumed to be innocent. And towards 2015 election, APC promised that the burden of proof will shift from the prosecutor to the defendant. But has that been implemented?
I doubt it.
And that is why I like to refer to the case of the former governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Fayose, who was investigated while in office. Some findings were put together by EFCC. He was even the one that drove himself to EFCC after coming out of the immunity provided by Section 308 of our Constitution. And the matter went on in court for about 6 years and was thrown out for lack of diligent prosecution. So we have issues, and that is why some may not be able to say, Olejeme is this, Betta Edu. In the case of Betta Edu, it was not denied that about 585 million or thereabout got transferred to private account and things like that. But she was never prosecuted for it. And what the spirit of that constitution is saying is that unless somebody is convicted for a crime,
Court of law, yeah,
then you cannot. And that is also the provision in Section 66.
And that's why,
yeah, but
Nigerian
morally,
Constitution.
and looking at the mood of the nation and your own, the party's perceived fight against corruption, isn't this just merely by association and indictment on them?
You know, I think this has gone beyond party. You see, my counsel is that if we want to fix Nigeria, let's do what is right. In fact, the word of God says righteousness exalts a nation. Because when you make reference to parties, in Nigeria now, party boundaries are breaking down. Adeleke just won in Accord. He went to present a certificate to the president in APC. He has declared openly he will support the presidential ambition to return President Bola Tinubu.
Well,
that
the
is
people
politics.
in the state are saying, speak for yourself.
Wike, that is doing so well in Abuja, you know, undeniably. Some don't even know which party he belongs to. He's officially in PDP, serving in, you know, so these are issues. So for politicians, you cannot trust them. In fact, the prominent ones amongst them have moved to about 3 or 4 parties if you are tracking. So I'm talking about governance here. These gaps are there. And the National Assembly can amend our laws. You see, what about going back to amend the Electoral Act that, to the extent that if you are being challenged by the law enforcement agencies on some malpractices, you cannot even function here, you cannot function here, you cannot function here, like we have in some other countries.
Yes. And you know, this is a very valid position because, like you said, Section 36 sub 5 has always been the bane of the argument. When there is an allegation and then there is an appointment thereafter, they will say, but no court of competent jurisdiction has pronounced this person guilty. I recall as recently as the case of the Baja Gate, not too long after, President Bola Tinubu named him the chairperson of the State Police Implementation Committee. And the question was, is this man not under investigation? Did he not just come under fire for the allegations being leveled against him? We don't know the conclusion yet, but he's in the thick of the storm. And the pushback was Section 36, subsection 5. So that's a very valid suggestion that you've raised. But let's talk about, I want us to go back now to individual figures. And so that people understand why Nigerians are raising dust about why a person like Zacch Adedeji, serving chairman of the Nigeria Revenue Service, looking at him in his position as Deputy Director of Fundraising. Deputy Director of Fundraising in the APC Council, then Chairman of Revenue Service. Please explain to us the political implication of that and why people are raising eyebrows at that name, for example.
You know, in public relations, you talk about public opinion, you talk about feedback, and I think from this feedback, APC should reconsider this list. We are talking of Zacch Adedeji as fundraising. On the scale of Deputy Director for Fundraising for the forthcoming elections. So on the scale of perception, in the minds of the people, he is now to gather our tax and give to this party. Or go after companies, those who should pay taxes, harass them because he has the authority to mobilize money. I think it's a political error. It's a strategic error. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
Is it an error or is it a show of nonchalance on the part of the ruling party?
I'm qualifying it as an error now against my earlier statement that I hope this list will be withdrawn. In this country, we have seen the list of political appointees having the names of dead people in it, and they say, we are withdrawing it and things like that. So I'm assuming now that maybe the president, even though he is also listed there, is not fully aware. You recall the case of the state pardon granted recently,
yes.
And he was embarrassed. Recently, when the EFCC chairman moved to Osun to, clamp down some of the state's accounts, he said he was embarrassed. He said it should be reversed. So maybe this may be one of the reversals. But we are saying now that test this thing from the response of the people. Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it states clearly that the security and the welfare shall be the primary purpose of government. It's all about the people. The same section 14 says that sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom the government derives authority. So if the people are responding, and on the scale of corporate governance and conflict of interest and ethical leadership, It's an obvious thing. And that's why many people are still doubting the efficacy of the state police proposal. That won't it be hijacked by some to now begin to carry out political? So I think it should be reconsidered. And if not reconsidered, please, I want to advise the APC to go and do a clinical study of what happened in Osun about 2 weekends ago, because even before that election, off-cycle election, many said it was going to be a litmus test for the forthcoming 2023 elections, where, despite the fact that about 16 governors from other states, decided to move to Osun State, about 30 commissioners of police were drafted to Osun State, and differently, people came out and said, we will vote for our candidate, despite the threat of death, and even though people were killed even before the election. So let's learn from all this. We shouldn't do things that will deepen the distrust. Globally now, we're in an age of distrust. So, and when you talk about the standard, the global standard of elections, it should be free, fair, transparent, and credible. And what's the meaning of credibility? Trusted. And when you talk of the credibility of an election, it does not start on election day. It starts before the election day. Just like I advise in project management, a project doesn't fail midway. It fails from the onset because you are expected to have calculated, done your risk assessment and everything. And that is why I make reference to wars at the global level. Before America goes to war, they've envisaged what are the likely, and that is why sometimes it's so easy for them to rescue their citizens that are caught somewhere, because they have envisaged that this may happen, that may happen. So these are issues of concern.
Just before we go, Barrister Ologun, let's talk about the portfolio and the responsibility of it. I mean, seeking re-election is serious business, and I think in all seriousness, Mr. President must have given deep thought into the individuals that constitute this committee, because he really wants to win a re-election. And these individuals are in current active portfolios that take equal seriousness. For example, the Minister of Defense that will be in charge of the Security Committee. Nigeria is currently the 4th most terrorized country in the world. You also have Governor Dr. Abiodun in Ogun State, which is dealing with lots of issues. The roads there are terrible. You also have the Director of Policy and Manifesto, Mr. Dele Alake, who's the Minister of Mines in Nigeria, of solid minerals, I beg your pardon. So is it possible for individuals to function in both capacities with utmost seriousness? Because Nigeria is already playing catch-up on so many issues, and then you're dividing their attention.
That is the assignment I have given to the National Assembly. For academic purposes, all those names you have mentioned are political appointees. They are not in the public service that you can classify as non-political government workers. So these are political government workers, appointed. And that is why I expect that the National Assembly, if the intention of having it is to establish peace, orderliness, and good government in Nigeria, should look at it. Remember an election that took place in Kogi State, where a candidate who was coasting to victory died at a crucial moment that was not envisaged by the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act was amended to cover that lacuna. Laws are made for the people and not the people for the law. So you can keep amending. But
the National Assembly is an APC majority National Assembly. You expect?
See, you know what I say? You know what I say? If you don't fight for justice when you have the opportunity, you may become the victim of injustice when you are out of that office. And it's as simple as that. Let's look, and that's what the Constitution says in Section 1, Constitution of Nigeria. It's all about Nigeria, not about the party, not about the persons in the party. We need to understand this. It's about governance, and good governance for that matter. You see, so we are, I hope that this will be given a consideration. But like I said, please go and study what happened in Osun State. You know, sometimes some actions even annoy electorates.
Yeah.
And I predicted it, that with all those forces, you know, galvanized against the incumbent governor, that he may fly on the wings of sentiments and you know, and sympathy of the people. What's the big deal? That this is our state, and that is what happened. And Nigerians have held that. In fact, the dialogue now is that the Apache many people were concerned about, they have been rolled away by the Osun election.
Since you speak about Osun election, one thing I would draw from Osun in comparison, Osun's gubernatorial campaign council and the presidential campaign council, is the fact that Osun had more members. It was a 276-man campaign council, while this APC presidential campaign council is 223-person structure. Judging from all that you've seen, now we've highlighted the things that are wrong about the campaign council. Are there any things that stand out to you as being right, that the APC, you say the APC has gotten right?
The APC is always ahead when it comes to organization. I give that to APC. Right from the moment that APC came up in 2013, they got the leadership right, because at that point in time, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed, who was one of the major arrowheads, could have insisted, I will be the presidential candidate. But they didn't do that. They got their public relations right, got the leadership synchronized, got the message right. Corruption, you know, corruption, let's fight corruption. And then, brilliantly, the incumbent president was thrown out of office, you know. And then, when it comes to managing cohesion, I give it to APC. But now, APC is at the point of saturation, like we say in...
law of diminishing returns.
Exactly. You know, that because in the Osun election, many chieftains of APC were disgruntled before the election, that the party has been hijacked. And we said it, that with the governors defecting to APC, they were defecting with their interest and their followers. And if they don't get the desired space within the party, they are likely also to begin to shake the table. So, and I just want to advise, I tell our children that there are two stages, you know, in education. The stage of opportunities, when you are attending lectures, preparing for your exam. Then the state of the real action, when you are in that exam, and that takes you to the third stage, the result. And that's why I'm advising, go and study your Osun election. Nigerians are waiting. They are discussing what is of utmost concern to them. And I'm talking of the majority of the citizens. They are talking about hunger. They are talking about the harsh economy. They are talking about the impact of the fuel subsidy removal and the absence of suitable alternatives to cushion that impact. They are talking about issues. So it may end up being a test of performance and not of political promises. You know, because in the Osun State also, I mean, we did our research, and indigenes pointed to things the governor has done, even though they labeled him as Edenization, that he has done more for Eden. But that is his base. That is a global thing in Nigeria. If he didn't do that, his people will fight him to, you know, so this, you see, let's move from politicking to good governance. And it will reduce the desperation and the waste of resources.
Well, that's a very interesting charge. I wonder how we're going to go through with that charge, especially now that campaign season is officially open. Governance is usually pushed to the back burner when campaign is open. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to have you.
Very interesting.
Let's now tell you that the Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, has urged Nigerian youth to reject manipulation and hatred and use technology to educate, innovate, and contribute positively to their communities. Disu gave the charge at the closing event of the International Youth Day 2026 National Youth Leadership and Security Initiative, where he stressed the need for young Nigerians to take responsibility for the figure of the country, for the future, I beg your pardon, of the country, and to resist pressures that could lead them into destructive actions. We had our correspondent Joseph Idong, who was there, and he now completes this report.
Nigeria's growing youth population remains central to the nation's future, with stakeholders saying that the choices young people make can either strengthen or undermine national security.
My dear young people, Nigeria does not need a generation that waits for permission to make a difference. We need a generation that is bold enough to lead and wise enough to lead responsibly.
You can be the generation that is manipulated into destroying communities, or the generation that builds them. You can spread hatred online or use technology to educate, innovate, and connect. The choice is yours. And history will judge your generation not by what you inherited, but by what you did with it.
At the closing of the International Youth Day 2026 National Youth and Security Initiative Summit in Abuja, young people were urged to use technology responsibly, reject negative influences, and protect their future. The same message was also delivered by stakeholders at a similar gathering organized by the Federal Capital Territory Police Command, with emphasis on youth participation and responsible citizenship.
Thuggery closes doors. No serious jobs, no scholarships, no visa. No family will trust someone known for violence. Real strength is discipline. Real respect is when people trust you to keep peace, not cause troubles.
To our young people, I encourage you to believe in yourself, develop your talent, embrace positive value, remain focused on your dream.
The highlight of the gathering was the appointment of 2 youth ambassadors for the police in the FCT, who are expected to promote dialogue between young people and the police and raise awareness about issues arising from police actions and inactions. In Abuja for News Central, Idong Joseph.
Coming up next on Breakfast Central, we'll be looking at mob justice and the threat that it is to rule of law. Some have called these criminals got talent. We'll be explaining that further. We'll be looking at as well building credit and financial reputation. Plateau Governor reshuffles cabinet. Governor Mutfwang sacks some commissioners and onboards others. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central here on News Central Television. Nigeria continues to grapple with widening justice and human rights challenges from the disturbing rise in mob violence to thousands of complaints of abuse and violations recorded across the country. Recent data from the National Human Rights Commission shows nearly 355,000 human rights complaints were recorded in July alone. Hundreds of killings and kidnappings also.
And at the same time, there are cases of mob justice that continue to raise serious questions about public trust in law enforcement, the criminal justice system, and the ability of the state to protect lives and guarantee justice. So the question is, what is driving this culture of impunity, and what must be done to restore public confidence in the justice system? Joining us as we discuss this is human rights lawyer Dorcas Anaja, who will be joining us virtually. Good morning, Dorcas. All right, Dorcas will join us shortly. We have our man here in the studio. You see him all the time in the field. Today, Sagir is with us in the studio. It's great to have you.
Yes, indeed. In the field and in the
Is this your first time on our set?
Internationally.
Yes,
Internationally.
Please, he deserves the bell.
Right. Thank you so much.
And just join us virtually. But
No, he's not. This is his first time on set.
Yes.
No, virtually is all the time.
And just to mention, Sager's been following this story back to back, putting reports upon reports upon reports on how many have tagged it thieves.
Criminals got talent.
Criminals got talent. I don't know where to start from.
Give us the background to why they're calling it Criminals Got Talent.
Okay, so I think it's basically because it has now transitioned from what we used to know it as. I mean, in the late 90s, early 2000s, that time when you hear that somebody was caught in the My 12 market for stealing something, the person is beaten, wet tire, thrown on top of the person, lynched and burnt immediately. But now we're seeing the trend change into something more different. And I think social media has sort of amplified that. So usually it has now gotten to a stage where if you hear a case of someone stole something or a thief was caught, you begin to see, first of all, you hear clappings, then you hear music, and then whomever it is that is the suspect, because of course, you can't call somebody a thief until a court of competent jurisdiction has charged and of course convicted the person. So you hear music and then you begin to see dancing, and this does not come without a few beatings and of course marks on the person's body. So we've seen this video, a lot of them, it's not one, it's not two, it's not three, we've seen tens of them where individuals suspected, alleged to have stolen items are beaten and then they are made to dance. Now, some people think it's fun, but this is just dehumanizing, especially considering the fact that they've not been charged to court, they've not been tried, a judge has not pronounced them as guilty of such, an investigation has not been done. So now they're being dehumanized in this form. The question being raised now is whether this is what our rule of law has been reduced to. And I'm asking this, while I do so, let's now bring a quick definition. And that definition is about who an average Nigerian is. When the question or when the conversation of an average Nigerian comes to mind, what you think about is probably middle to low income class, maybe within the age of 19 to 27, 28, but the median age in Nigeria is around 19, 20, among several others. Now, the question is for these ordinary Nigerians or average Nigerians, as we call them, or as we call ourselves, you go out to strive every day, you struggle to provide access to electricity for yourself with the emergence of solar. You struggle to provide access to healthcare for yourself because not everybody has a health insurance and all of that. Now, when you put all of this into perspective, you now ask the question, when you are wronged, when somebody does something to you that goes against the law and you go to court, will you get justice? I think it is upon this foundation that we have seen mob justice take the turn that it has taken. The people have had issues trusting the judicial system to provide the kind, of conviction or to provide justice for them when they approach it. And hence the reason why we see somebody like this individual.
I mean, look at this guy.
Exactly.
He was caught stealing a chicken, and there's an officer there. He was told to release the chicken as well. And he was told if he doesn't do it, he will be dealt with.
Okay.
I mean, this is dehumanizing. But let's bring in human rights lawyer Dorcas Onoja. Dorcas, these videos clearly violate a person's right to dignity, as we can see clearly, regardless of what crime they've committed, as they haven't been charged to a court of competent jurisdiction. Some would argue that, in the past, like Sagir did highlight, that it could lead to the loss of lives. And we've seen it in the case of Alufo, that this is better. At least they're not preventing them from a right to life. What they're just losing is their dignity. And they were caught in the act. Is that sufficient enough justification?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's definitely my personal opinion, and legally, it's nothing justifies the behavior, getting someone and then some citizens deciding that it's for them to investigate, it's for them to prosecute, it's for them to also sentence. There's a reason why we have laws. There's a reason why we have, either elected or made and chosen certain people to be able to go through this process, because so many things goes into looking how a crime is being committed. So nothing justifies what happens when mob violence happens. I understand that a lot of people do not trust the system, but we need the system to work, and we need to fuel whatever anger we have towards advocating for the system to work rather than taking violence into our own hands. So I would say in a nutshell that definitely nothing causes this, because our humanity is going. It's dehumanizing to do this to people. And it's just that psychology, that thing of wanting to control something, So because you can't control how the case goes through the system, how fast you want justice to happen. So because of that, you are left to control them in this sort of way. They can easily say, okay, dance for us, or they can easily say, do this for us. That makes them feel in control. But at the end of the day, our systems are not getting better. Instead, we're eroding our humanity. We're losing a piece of ourselves. And that's not something we want in any sane society.
Well, this is a trend that has suddenly grown out of, different cultures, communities, states. I mean, I saw one from the east, I saw another one from the southwest. So it's like it's a trend. And Sergey, let me go back to Sergey before I get back to you. Would you say that social media has aided and has helped to spread the gospel, the negative gospel of this activity?
Well, I would say yes, the social media has definitely in one way or the other helped to amplify. But what this has done is has given it so what we've seen as trend over time is that it has now become sort of like skit making as we generally know. So when someone is caught or someone is accused of stealing, in this case, the emphasis is no longer so much about causing so much harm that the person is beaten and then burnt alive. Usually now what we see is when someone is accused of stealing, people begin to bring out their phone because it's almost as if the talent hunt is about to begin. Then you almost immediately begin to hear songs playing in the background. The person is stripped off of his clothes. Whatever it is the person was accused of stealing or the person was caught stealing, he's made to hold, and then the person dances.
As a prop.
Exactly. So now the question is whether the person wins anything. Anyways, the person is beating blue-black, so we could say that's the prize. But then, of course, it is dehumanizing. It goes against established protocols and established laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because ordinarily the process that it's supposed to take is when you are accused of stealing or when you are accused of malicious intent, the police is invited, you are arrested by the police, you're taken to the court of law. The court takes, you face a judge, and then your case is argued, you are defended, for or against, and then in the end, conviction comes.
But Sergey, I'm sorry to butt in very quickly. Yeah. Look at the video of that young man breaking some dance steps.
Breaking a leg there.
Yeah, but I've seen some people who have jovially said, this is far better than dealing with the person in a negative sense, physically harming the person,
or killing
the person, or even, like you said, what was known before, bring tire. But with this one now, I saw a comment, someone said, just keep them busy until the police comes. Yes. But before the police takes them away, let them entertain for a second. He's trying to put a split there, can you imagine?
But Jude, does it make sense? That's the question. Does it make sense that we would literally go from worse to bad and say that is an improvement? Because in the first instance, if one is accused of stealing, you should first of all see the inside of a police vehicle, at least for your own protection. That's what it's meaning. And then,
but the fact that these individuals were caught red-handed, doesn't it count for something? It's not like they need to prove their innocence or guilt.
They're caught. So do we meet the same treatment to politicians who steal billions upon billions upon billions of naira? No, Joe, don't say it's a different situation because somebody is caught stealing. Look at the person that stole a chicken. We literally saw his videos right now.
What's the
he
value
was
of a
made
chicken?
to kiss the chicken. That chicken shouldn't cost more than maybe 5,000 to 10,000 naira. Give or take, let's even say it's 20,000 naira.
You know what that reminds me of?
What does it remind
African China who sang, "Poor man wait if Maggie then go show him face for crime fighter. Rich man wait if money we know they see their face for crime fighter."
And this is what we are seeing happen in Nigeria. So why should we then celebrate that it has gone from being burnt alive, to talent hunt?
Okay.
Instead of
it only
these
applies
guys
to people of a social
a certain social group.
Right.
I want to bring Dorcas into the conversation, flowing from what we've just talked about in terms of how we display criminals. And I'd like Dorcas, as a human rights lawyer, to speak to the rights that criminals have. And I know that many Nigerians struggle to face the fact that even a person who has been accused of a crime has certain rights. So please speak to us about some of the rights and how those rights are being broken currently, not just by Nigerian citizens, but even by law enforcement.
Thank you very much. So an alleged criminal has certain rights. So from the beginning, speaking to mob violence, you definitely have your right to life, except that is after trial happens and that right is, set aside by a court of competent jurisdiction. So you have your right to life. So things like mob violence, someone attacking you, getting you burnt, that should not happen. The Nigerian law also gives the presumption of innocence, according to Section 35. it says that even if you are found, you need to go through the process of them saying, okay, what happened, and the court needs to happen, trial needs to happen. So presumption of innocence. And then Section 36 also speaks to your right to fair hearing and also to counsel. So when you cannot afford a counsel, the state, through its the legal aid council, is supposed to provide a lawyer for you, and even there, and that's why Legal Aid Council collaborates with organizations such as Hope Behind Bars and other NGOs to say that, okay, we might not have a lawyer here. Do you have someone available in this place to represent this person who has been accused of a crime, to go through the entire process of trial? So what happens in trial is that we need to know what happened. I know a lot of times people are like, no, we caught you red-handed. Yes, there's a part of the law that says that if you admit to your crime and say that, yes, you committed this crime, then there can be a summary kind of judgment. But it's important that you first of all, are being arraigned. That's your asked, are you guilty or not guilty? You plead, and then depending on what side you pick, whether you're guilty or not, there's a lawyer that stands for you at every point in time. There's someone that advocates for you to ensure that your rights are being protected. Now, a lot of people do not understand that this right needs to be kept, and these rights need to be protected until it happens to them. Because there are so many times that we see through our line of work where a lot of people, due to one reason or the other, they get arrested for something, and there might be a misunderstanding. There might be a reason why even something happens. We're looking at the murder might be a very like a very complex case, forgive me. But sometimes things happen, like maybe due to due to anger, due to insanity. So the law insisting that due process needs to be followed is for us to understand what is happening, where is it coming from, and things like that. So yes, you have to be protected in presumption of innocence, right to counsel, right to speedy trial, to the Administration of Criminal Justice Act here in Abuja, or the Administration of Criminal Justice law in Lagos and other parts of the country, provide for you to have speedy trials. And that's something we've been advocating, that when we keep people long behind bars, when we keep people for a long time without giving them a day in court, we're actually violating their rights, because speedy trials, as much as possible, as reasonably as possible, should happen. So trial delays are actually a violation of our rights. And so you have your right to speedy trial, you have your right to fair trial, and even after a sentence happens and you feel like you have not been given justice, you have your right to appeal. You can appeal to the Court of Appeal, and after that, if you're still not satisfied with the judgment, you have the right to appeal to the Supreme Court as well. Wow. So these are some of the rights that anybody who is accused of a crime has.
This sounds pretty much clear, but for those who are engaging in this fun fair, or thieves have got talent, or what do we call it? Maybe criminals got talent. They do not know these steps. So I think it behoves on an office, maybe the federal government needs to look into it to brief Nigerians, maybe run adverts, let people know that, listen, you cannot partake in this. But let me ask this question. I don't know if you want to take it first before we come down to Sege. We have recent and past cases, including the killing of Ibrahim Baya and the Alu 4 tragedy. That one, I could no longer, I remember the whole day, I couldn't get myself together. The moment I stumbled on that footage, the video, till date, I can still hear their voices in my head. Don't these issues, this particular scenario, doesn't it demonstrate that innocent people can also be victims of mob action? So why is it that nothing has really been done?
I think so many factors contribute to why nothing has been done, because when you look at this, even what happens for mob violence, why it even happens in the first place is because there's a mistrust in the system. So ideally, when an allegation is being made, you're supposed to report to the police. But how many citizens feel confident enough to walk up to a police station and say, okay, this person committed a crime? Sure, they will document, they will take things, but many of them already distrust that the system would be fast as they want, or would also bring justice, because there's also the concept of restorative justice. There's something that we all even talk about, in the justice space, where we say, okay, fine, the law has said there's justice is a three-way street: justice for the victim, justice for the states that the crime has been committed against, and then also justice for the perpetrator. But a lot of people distrust that the system would actually bring justice to them in the way they want. And so that's why mob violence happens. And so just to speak to your question about why it happens, is that mistrust in the system. And that's why they are not waiting for it to take its course. And a lot of rights are actually infringed upon when mob violence happens, because when you look at it, no matter what, in an ideal society and what the law says, nobody's allowed to beat up or torture someone who has committed a crime. Even if they catch you red-handed, you are not supposed to torture someone. And so when these people committing this violence, whenever they do that, they're already committing another crime. And in the advent of social media, taking videos, what people now fail to do is that people say, okay, yes, they are taking those videos so that they can help the police. But it's not really true, because they are doing it for their own amusement. They are doing it for their own entertainment. They are going to post it online and say, oh, see what we did to this thief, that kind of thing. And so they are also committing a lot of crime. A lot of privacy laws are also even being infringed that we haven't even spoken about. So these are some of the things. I don't know if you can just repeat your question. I don't know if I answered
I think you've answered that. You've touched on that. But let's go back to Sergey. Sergey.
She basically said the words that I had in my head. Because, first of all, constitutional law provides that when one is accused of committing a crime, a process is examined. And that process simply goes through the allegation phase, the investigation, prosecution, trial, judgment, and then finally sentencing to say you've been found guilty of so and so and so. Based on that fact, you've been sentenced to so and so time, whether in a correctional facility or whether it's restorative justice that's going to be the case, or whether it's whatever form that your sentencing is going to take. But for the mobs, you go from allegation to anger to violence. But now in this case, it's allegation, anger, talent hunt. So there's an allegation that an individual attempted to steal a vehicle. Before he says, I was just passing, you've been beaten. Yeah. You've been stripped of all of the items that you're wearing, and then you've been forced to dance. So whether it's the case of Ibrahim Mbaya and Justin July here, who was accused of stealing the phone, and after he was beaten and unfortunately succumbed to his injuries, it was found out that he was actually innocent. He didn't steal the phone. So what do you do in cases such as that, where the entire mob, and in this situation, we're calling it mob, but we know it is Nigerians like you and I who have refused to be patient, to wait for the police to do their job. Now, that's on the one side. The other side, how do we tackle the issue of trust? Because it's because they do not trust in the system that we see things like this continue to rear its head. On an average, it takes between 4 to 6 years for a court case to be complete. Who wants to wait that long to see justice be meted on an individual that has done them wrong or has committed a crime? If it was a case of maybe because we've seen situations such as that, a case of alleged rape or attempted rape, do you think that the mob would wait enough for the police to arrive, with the arrival time that it takes for the police to come, with the general public opinion of the police and all of that comes with high-handedness or low-handedness, or hands exchanging hands or money exchanging hands, then before you know, everything is muddled, it's no longer clear, and then the case ends as it is. Do Nigerians really have the patience to wait for that to happen? So these are some of the issues that have really amplified what we are seeing right now. A complete, not complete, but somewhat disbelief in the system, a disbelief in the fact that justice will not be done, and the fact that the leaders are not trusted as much, the police are not trusted as much, and then we see Nigerians generally bearing the brunt of all of this.
I'm glad you mentioned the Nigerian police. Let's go back to Abuja. My colleague earlier was asking whose responsibility is it to raise awareness and also spread the message so that people know that what they're doing is illegal. Let's go back to Port Harcourt, I beg your pardon. It's illegal, and they shouldn't be doing this, because even the Nigerian police force have their own share of responsibility and blame. If you do recall, I'm not sure we have that video. There's a particular video of the Nigerian police displaying a suspect, and they asked what occupation he does. He said he's a singer, and then he was forced to sing in front of the press, and everyone found it amusing.
As a matter of fact,
yes.
I was in that very event, yes, indeed. And like you mentioned, I mean, it's a case of you were caught, you were paraded, and then during the process, questions were asked. So what do you do? I sing. Where are you from? I'm from Benue State. And then, okay, sing. And before you know, he started singing. I don't want to sing on air. I still remember the song very vividly. But that's literally the case. And then something to add to this, Benga, is the fact that aside the display, Benga, people actually come up to say, look, guys, let's wait for the police. And you know what happened to them? They are beaten as well. And they are told that they are colluding with the criminals. So even people who come to be the conscience of this mob also suffer it. And this is where we need to do better as a people. You cannot trust the system, but you know in the end that the police has the power of arrest. If you go ahead and the crime is committed while you are there, you will bear the responsibility of it, because when investigations are done, everybody who participated in it will be rounded up, and it will no longer be a question of whether the person was guilty or innocent. The same 4 to 6 year tenure it's going to take for a case to run in court, you will have to go through that same process. So if it's a case of your friend or individuals within your area have been fond of doing this, perhaps this is the time to rethink as a Nigerian whether this is what you want to be known for. Because these things, like I said, Joe, is on the social media. And the social media is not watched or viewed by just Nigerians alone. This is our collective reflection as a people in the world over. I think people are watching us, and Nigerians need to have some decency.
I think surprisingly, I saw another footage of also this mob action, not in Nigeria. I think they were mimicking what Nigerians do. It could be, I think it was in Ghana, where they caught one and said, okay, hey, Charlie, I think he has to dance for us too. And I'm like, okay, is this starting to become a trend that we are exporting, you know, out of the country
but
and
Joe,
so on?
When a snake swallowed 30 million naira, where were we? When a monkey carted away with millions of naira, nobody danced.
Nobody danced.
But then now this does not excuse their action, of course. But why are we seeing a lot of Nigerians who are literally below,
it's proximity to power.
Right.
You wouldn't have access. You can't go to Maitama and get a former minister. The minister that was jailed recently, Minister of Petroleum, if I'm not mistaken, that was recently sentenced to a long prison term. You don't have access to him. You can't go to his house and tell, come out, Oga, and come and dance. You stole our money. So these are some of the issues. It's a class war.
All right.
A comment on YouTube says, the problem is that those doing this to minor theft celebrate political theft.
Right. That's another way to look at it.
Okay, so what we need to put in place, in 30 seconds, I'm going to speak to Dorcas and then come back to you. What needs to happen for us to move to a point where citizens trust law enforcement, be able to adjudicate or speedily ensure the process of justice from arrest up until sentencing? What will need to happen for citizens to trust law enforcement? And I'm not just talking the entire administration of justice entity. What would need to happen?
I mean, you guys have made salient points, but I think I'll just speak to the fact that of the training of the police, right? So I think there's a quote in management that says you cannot blame people you do not train. And many times, it's not an excuse, but many times we'll say the police act the way they do as a result of the culture we've imbibed as a society. And so it's very important that, because the police, they are the entryway into the criminal justice system. Many cases are even lost in court because there's no proper forensic evidence, there's no proper investigation done, there's no due process, and the law has to be the law. So the law has to that's why we have the whole Lady Justicia, where her eyes are blind to anything except the evidence placed before her. So if we do not have our police officers trained in the way they collect evidence, in the way they also, mitigate this violence that happens, because you have many police officers tell you that what happens is that during the violence, they actually run away because they know, based on their training, based on the equipment they have, once the violence they have to hide. If not, they will also be, victims of this violence. So we need to train the police, because once we have training for them done, we also have accountability mechanisms put in place for the police that says, you know what, when people come, people should feel confident to come to the police and report crimes. And when it's not followed, we can hold the person responsible accountable. There needs to be more consequences. As a nation, we need to have more consequences. And consequences can look like punishing a police officer that doesn't do his or her job. It looks like when people report crimes and there is no follow through, there's someone that is held accountable. This will start putting back trust little by little to let people know that, you know what, when you report these crimes, people are going to pay attention to it. And when they don't, they will be punished for it. So training for the police officers, adequate payment for them as well, because we can't keep claiming. I know it's nice to say, oh, police should not collect bribes. Ideally, that is the ideal. But if our police officers are not treated well, if they have to, take scraps for living, of course they are going to accept bribes. It's not something we want to do. It's not a nice thing to think about, but they will collect bribes. So we need to ensure that their welfare is done. And it's not just about welfare. I understand that people can be greedy, but when welfare fails, when they are being treated well, and then they still feel accountability will catch up with them to ensure that when there are corrupt cops, they're actually being punished and held accountable. I think that will happen. Also, we need to, when we look at the larger system, that's our court system, there are a lot of backlogs in our court. And it's also because we also look at punishment as only one thing, going behind bars, putting people behind bars. But what if our courts already sit and start seeing non-custodial sentences in something that we, as an organization, we advocate for, that there are certain petty offenses that do not need the victims of the crime in behind bars. For example, the video that was played of the young man who stole, chicken. I'm so sorry, but there are so many things to do with your time than to steal chicken. There's a reason why he stole that. Who knows? Poverty. It's not an excuse. But how about when we're sentencing, we look at what can happen, like how you can go beyond that, restorative justice. How can we explore non-custodial sentences? Because when we explore non-custodial sentencing, we have a bit of free time to be able to look at, okay, the people who have committed these harder crimes, they can go to prison, they can serve time, because we need to also remember that the fundamental reasons for our correctional facilities are no longer called prisons, but our correctional facility is to rehabilitate. People need to go through that system and be changed and be reformed in their minds. We have a problem of reoffending, and it's because people go through the system and are not being changed. And it happens from even the courts and the way sentencing happens. You have someone who steals chicken is being kept in the same place as someone who stole millions of naira or who killed someone. Of course, there's going to be an exchange of ideas. So all of these things need to happen, but we insist that from the police needs to be trained, accountability needs to be put in place, and their welfare needs to be improved. That will see the ripple effect across all systems.
Thank you very much, Dorcas. Thank you for your very insightful contribution, and thank you to our man in the studio here with us, Zacch. It's been absolutely great having you both, and we do hope that the recommendations you've made will be taken into account, and we can see less and less of this dehumanization of people who have been alleged to have committed crimes and still have rights, right to dignity of human person, and right to fair hearing, right to appear before a court of competent jurisdiction. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back from the break, we have more conversations to look at this morning, so please stay with us.
The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has uncovered another alleged fake federal agency, the National Brands Development and Made in Nigeria Special Project Office, which falsely presented itself as operating under the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Its promoter, Ngozi George, allegedly used official-looking presidential documents and established coordinators across the country, it was said. Now, between January and February 2026, the organization contacted governors in Lagos, Imo, Sokoto, Ondo, Edo, and Nasarawa seeking funding, land, state coordinators, and other support. It also requested about 75,000 US dollars from Edo State for a proposed Bahrain delegation and sought land in Ondo for a made-in-Nigeria product market.
The organization for their invited states to participate in international trade programs across several countries, claiming to promote Nigerian products and attract investment. The ICPC found that it had no presidential authorization, prompting President Bola Tinubu to arrest George and suspend 3 senior officials accused of enabling the operation. Joining us this morning to discuss the crack in the system and possible way forward is the head of finance and internal audit at Public and Private Development Center, PPDC, Segun Olaniyi. Good morning, Mr. Olaniyi, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
What do you make of this latest revelation? Yet another discovery of a fake agency. Where does the blame lie, and what makes it so easy for individuals to set up these fake agencies these days?
Well, I believe it's a verification and institutional trust problem, and that also has to do with internal control processes. What is the sufficient supporting documentation that is required for anything to happen? And that is, I think, where the bulk of the problem is. Is a letter purporting coming from the presidency sufficient enough to be able to justify some certain things? How do you even verify whether these institutions are legal or not, whether they are followed through the process or not? So I think the verification and institutional trust problem is where the issue is. And this is where the bulk of the issue stems from.
Okay, as an auditor, I mean, having looked into internal control processes, I'm so happy to ask this question in particular. How do you audit a fiscal year and also do that from different government offices and not be able to spot a program that has existed for 16 years? Is it possible? Let me ask, because the federal government, of course, would have its auditors. So while they're auditing each office, is it possible to miss out on an office that has existed for 16 years and you couldn't call that program out up until now?
Well, that has to do with probably an institutional issue, and also audit in itself most often does not check every transaction or everything that happened. In most cases, what audit does is to do like a sample check. And from the sample checks, if whatever they have discovered seems to meet all the requirements, then there may be no need for any further checks. It is only when you have done your checkings and you see that some of these things from the sample that you have checked, and you notice that there are some things that are not meeting up, then you do a further check. Probably you may be able to get additional things, or you request for a special audit, in which case you have noticed some certain things are not okay, and you think that those things require a further check and a further verification. Sometimes it may even mean that a different kind of audit needs to be done. For instance, it may require a forensic audit to be done to authenticate some of the things that have happened within that financial year period. So there's possibility that those issues may not have been spotted during the audit. So there's high likelihood that some of those things may not have been spotted. But for the number of years that this has spanned, I think it's a little bit of a stretch. But normally, this is how audit works. You do a sample check. From the sample checks, you're able to verify whether there is additional need for additional audit or a special kind of audit to be done.
Okay, just to mention, you know, who do we then hold responsible in this case for this quote-unquote failure? Would you say that the Prince Adeyemi saga was a blessing in disguise, as it's now helping us in the course of ICPC doing the job they should have done much earlier, unearthing these, I would say these because we don't know if there are multiple other agencies that are there illegally?
Yes, I'll say it's a blessing in disguise. because it has brought this to the limelight, which means that things like this need to be further looked at, to look at where the weaknesses are in the processes and fix them. Again, this stems as an internal control problem. Government needs to look at where these failures have occurred. Again, like I mentioned, what stands as sufficient supporting documentation for a transaction to occur? Just a letter from the presidency? Is there a need for additional check? Do you need to check whether this institution have been gazetted? Is there a need for further checks or other things that needed to support anything? Because I think that is where the majority of this issue is coming from. An entity that does not have any legal standing should not be able to do anything from even the name, even going forward, should not be able to do anything. Because this is carrying a government looking like name and is doing all its transactions using that particular name. So I believe that there's supposed to be a particular agency whose responsibility will be for something like verification. So if you want to check whether this agency is actually legit, you can go through that agency and they will be able to verify that this is what the act that brings this agency into being. These are all the legal standing of that particular agency. And this should not just, this should be for every transaction that any agency is doing. So you don't just rely on the letter, even either from CBL or the presidency or whichever. That should not be sufficient. There should be a way that you can also do your further additional checks. It's just like saying the BVN or NIN or something. There should be an additional thing that you can be able to go, which is independent, not from the agency that is issuing you the letter or the agency sending the letter from. There should be a body that is independent that you can go to verify all of these things. When it was established, the act bringing it into limelight, all the processes, even all the transactions that the agency have been doing up to this. So that can give you like a legal backing or something verifiable. Okay. So that every institution that needs to deal with that particular institution can go there and verify that this particular entity has met all the requirements and is a legal thing.
Well, Mr. Olani, this new agency seems the ICP here swung into action and it's consumed its first casualties. As we speak, 3 permanent secretaries have been suspended. But the man in the eye of the storm, Mr. George Buchu Nwabueze, is fighting back against the ICPC by releasing appointment documents. In his defense, he's publicly shared a 2010 SGF endorsement letter and a 2025 proposal letter signed by the suspended permanent secretary, Gegare, arguing that the agency was long established and approved by the Federal Executive Council back in 2017. Is this sufficient enough pushback and evidence of endorsement by the federal government, or is he a drowning man just holding on to straws?
Again, one of the suggestions I would like to pose for things like this is create a single searchable official directory for all federal MDAs. So it's not your word against mine. It is that there's something that you can go to and verify. So this should also be open to everybody so that both you and I can also go there and see that this is has a legal backing and everything that is required has been met for you to be a government institution. I think this will go a long way to stem all these issues. So this should not by any means be your word against mine, or this is this or this is that. We should have something that shows that this has followed all the process and it has met all the requirements and is a legally established.
So the appointment letter is not sufficient?
Well, we know things that happen. Letter could be forged, like we have the case for the other one, which even a gazette was allegedly forged. So it should not be a letter thing. It should be an institutional thing. It should be something that there should be a body who is responsible for ensuring that all these agencies have met all the requirements, and it should be open, it should be searchable, such that everybody can go there and search. It's not just even for the government itself, even for the public. Bank accounts could be opened for these entities. So how do they check whether these entities are legal, whether they have actually met all the requirements for them to be able to open the bank account? So there are a lot of things. Should they rely on the letter from the presidency, or this letter that I said came out in 2017? So all of these things has to be institutionalized. Let's have an MDA whose responsibility it is to ensure that every government agencies have met all the requirements and is listed there. So all you just need to do is
an
MDA
to register MDAs. Well, further, bloating up the bureaucracy of government. But I wish we could go on. Thank you so much, Segun Olani, for your contribution and for enlightening. And let's hope the government listens and does something to, protect this loopholes, to prevent this very embarrassing situations we found ourselves in. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a nice day.
All right.
You as well.
I like the fact that we've looked at it from the auditor's point of view, and he says basically with all that we've discussed, questions asked, it has to do with the institution. It's how the Nigerian government runs its office. And we've used analogies here on this program. Nobody can come into your house, take your pot,
cook a soup,
and put some turkey
without your knowledge.
Like someone coming to cook dog meat in my house.
Like, who is cooking that soup? Okay, I don't know you, but keep cooking, when you finish.
And I hope he hasn't inadvertently given some criminal elements some type of suggestion on which fake agency to create next. Because somebody might create...
Ministry of Snail.
No. An agency to check fake agencies.
Ministry of...
agency is fake.
Let me coin a nice name for that. Ministry of Investigation of Ministries, Departments... Ministry for the Investigation of Fake MDAs.
Yes.
The point is, we really don't even know how many ministries are there.
Well, the president has ordered a forensic audit, and...
Remember, this is just
of
one.
all
this is just one.
agencies.
From the weekend, we heard there were two. This is one that is highlighted.
The second one will come out tomorrow.
There's a lot. Anyway, stay with us. Breakfast Central continues. Today is a Monday, so we'll be taking a look at your personal finance and credit scores, what it means, how much do you have in your account, how can you manage your money, and how you can build a strong financial identity in Nigeria today.
This segment is brought to you by Zenith Bank.
Your financial reputation can influence your ability to access loans, to secure business funding, rent a home, or achieve major financial goals. But building a strong credit profile goes beyond simply borrowing money. It requires responsible financial habits, timely repayments, a clear understanding of how your financial behavior is perceived by lenders as well as institutions. Now, to discuss what it means to have a good credit score in Nigeria, we're joined by financial analyst Kalu Aja. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, thanks. Good to be here.
What is a credit score? Does it really hold weight in Nigeria? How does it work in Nigeria? How important is the idea of a credit score really?
Score.
Well, a credit score is simply a number that tracks your credit history. That's a very, very simple way of putting it, right? Nigeria, we have 3 credit bureaus. And the idea is when you take credit and you pay back, they record it. And the more you take credit and the more you pay back on time, and how much credit you keep on your books determines that score. Usually called a FICO. I'm not sure what Nigerians call it, but usually called a FICO score or credit score. And that's essentially what that number is. So if you have a higher credit score, then of course you can borrow at a lower interest rate. That's just the summary of it. It's a very important score because you can have the same income But if you don't take debt, if you don't take credit, of course, you don't have a credit score. You pay higher than someone that has the same income with you, but takes credit to have a lower score if it pays back on time.
Now, Kalu, this, from your analysis, I guess it only applies to taking credit from financial institutions. If you take credit from individuals, it won't be computed in your credit score, just to be sure of that. And how much credit do Nigerians have access to? Because, I mean, the United Kingdom and other countries, you could buy a phone, refrigerator. It's almost like a credit-based economy, but we're slowly seeing that Nigerians, thanks to the digitalization of banks, offering those kind of services. So those two questions.
Yeah, so yes, it has to be from a registered or licensed credit agency. If you just borrow money from your friend that is not licensed and cannot be tracked, then of course the credit bureaus would not know. It has to be an institution that can send the report to the credit bureau. That's one. To your second question, in terms of credit Nigerians are borrowing, not a lot. There's a company called, an organization called EFINA, Enhancing Financial Inclusion in Nigeria. They track these numbers. The numbers have been very, very low, especially from the formal credit organizations like banks. Nigerians are not taking a lot of loans from banks. Consumer credit in Nigeria is very, very low. We have a lot of guys doing the banking, the loan apps. That seems to be a bit more popular, even though it has higher interest rate. But the numbers of Nigerians that take loans from commercial banks is little about 5%. And we're talking from inception till today. So not a lot of consumer credit is out there in Nigeria. So credit loans or credit bureaus are still a new thing in the country. We're still getting used to how to access credit, how to use credit for consumers, or even for a mortgage. But very, very low numbers across the board in Nigeria.
Now, Kalu, I just want to follow up on what you did mention. I mean, and it's quite shocking that Nigerians, especially in trying times like this, and of course, like you said, the banks offer better rates than some of these apps. Why are they not flocking to the banks for credit? Is it that these products are not advertised properly, or it's a cultural thing?
It's a cost thing, really, and it's also like a regulation thing, if you can use that word. Banks require more documentation. They have to adhere to credit guidelines issued by the regulators, which make it a bit stressful for the rank and file Nigerian to walk in and get a loan. If you want to get an auto loan, you go to your bank, you have to go open an account, they have to have your utility bills, all that stuff. Most Nigerians think it's a bit much. But you can go online on your phone and you can request for a loan and get a loan in maybe 48 hours. So just the ease of getting a loan from the loan app seems faster, even at a higher, very, very high interest rate. Banks haven't broken through that, offering consumer credit to Nigerians at scale. There's a lot of loans that they give to maybe the conglomerates, the multinationals, and the high net worth individuals. But the consumer credit at the very, very base level to the students, to the workers, we have some banks doing it, but not say to someone that isn't employed in a formal organization. That's really where the problem is. If you don't really have a job in a formal organization where you get a steady salary, it's very hard to get a loan, consumer credit in Nigeria.
That's going to be really tough. But let's also look at the challenges that some of these banks could face. I mean, if you were running your bank, would KYC be a major problem, knowing your customer? Because these days, we're also struggling with data breach. We're struggling with even collating data. So how can we move from data issues, having the right data before we start going into credit score and knowing your customers? How does these three things interrelate?
Well, you see, in the past, it was hard if you owned a bank to know who a Nigerian was, because you have to know who you are lending to. This is the KYC, know your customer you're talking about. But today, you've got the GSM phones, right? You've got don't forget NIN. Now, if you're a financial institution, simply taking the phone records of a Nigerian tells you a lot. How much does he spend on phones? Who is he calling? What time does he call? Gives you a profile that you can use to build out a financial score for that person even without going through the normal Naira Kobo that you need. So it's easier today with AI, with how Nigerians use their phones, even where they live, how they get to work. You can ask all those questions. They are non-financial questions, and you can build out a profile that tells you if this person spends this amount of money on his cell phone, he lives in this area, this is what he buys. You can give them a score, and basically you can then lend to them. Look, India did something like this a long time ago when they wanted to do their credit scores, where they gave the NIN numbers, the BBN numbers came from the banks themselves. Same with Kenya, where you see that the cellular phone company that was very popular there also gave its own numbers to individuals that they could use to then track usage, and then use that usage to then determine a credit score in quotes for them. So banks really don't have a big excuse now why we're not doing a lot of consumer credit, because it's much, much, much easier now. And we should be doing much more than we're using. We have to get a bit more innovative and not just rely on the normal, traditional KYC to give folks credit.
Let's now also talk about the role that fintech plays in affecting one's credit score. Lately, we've seen that people with just a tap of a button can borrow money from one fintech app or the other. It's like they're even begging us. Every time you're getting one alert, they're telling you you're eligible for 500,000 naira, you're eligible for 1 million naira loan. Mm-hmm. How can these apps affect one's credit score as well?
Yeah, it's very, I won't use the word carefully, it's very kind of dangerous. Credit is dangerous. It's easy. You can get credit, you can build out your asset base, especially when you are just starting your employment and you don't have a high salary. But once you don't pay back, that's going to be one of the biggest drags on your credit. Because the way credit is calculated, if you pay back on time, that's 35% of that total credit score. The amount of debt you are carrying is also 30% of that credit score. So just paying back your loan on time and not carrying a balance exposes you to 65% of the total score. The rest is going to be the type of credit, the mix of the credit, and how long you've had the credit. But those two are very important. So if you take a loan and you don't pay back, it's going to be massively, massively a big, big deal for you. That it's going to draw your credit score really, really low, and it's going to affect you. You then need to clean that credit score up before you can get a new loan, which then means it's worse off for you than if you didn't have a credit score. It's better you don't have a credit score than have a bad credit score, because then you have to clean that up before you can access the loan. They now know you as a bad borrower before you are just a no borrower, which they can take a chance on you.
Now, Kalu, let's talk about one of the things this government has touted as one of its greatest achievements in this administration, NEL Fund. Will NEL Fund, a failure to repay your NEL Fund loan, can it be added to your credit score? And also, the second leg of my question is, what rules of thumb exist so that you don't get into that rot of a debt cycle and you keep going back? Because the economy is tough. There are people that know all these apps. They have about 4, and they've taken money from all of them.
They take money from one to the other.
Yeah, credit card, you take from one, you refinance one. So great question, the NEL Fund loans, right? The way it's structured, even before you get the loan, they had wanted you to get a guarantor. I think now it's a bit more streamlined. You can get that loan if you're in school and all that kind of stuff. And the way I understand this is set up is that you will pay the loan back when you are working. It's not going to be written off, but they will not charge you interest till you start to work. So technically you can graduate. If you don't have a job, you don't pay back. But once you get a job, you have to pay back. And it sits on your credit score. And it's a loan that you're owed to the federal government that you then have to pay back. So I've argued that it should be free, but hey, it's a loan. So if you take it, be aware that you want to try to get that loan, get it off your books as soon as possible. There are no term limits, which means you can spread it out, amortize it, and pay it off, right? To your second question, how you can stay away from the debt trap, try to only borrow for income-generating purposes. So if you have a loan app, you shouldn't take a loan to start a business. You shouldn't take a loan to eat. I know it sounds cool, but you shouldn't take a loan.
To survive.
Benga, are you listening? You shouldn't take a loan to eat.
Don't take a loan because you're hungry, because you want to buy a consumable, because you want to go on a holiday. Take loans that are you can invest the proceeds and then generate income. It's a very, very tough thing to do, but stay away from loans for non-income generating purposes. Your salary is what you want to use to pay, to eat, to do your vacation. If you can't afford a vacation, you don't have to go for vacation, right? We're entering into the December period. So if you can't afford it, just chill and start again in January. Don't borrow. Don't borrow for a wedding. Don't borrow for a burial. These things are very dangerous traps that you get yourself into. Borrow for the marriage, right? And borrow to stay alive, but be very careful what you're financing. Don't finance a lifestyle. Only borrow for income generating activities. It's very tough to say that. But
honestly, I like that you've broken it down. I do have some questions, because there are people that
are they personal
that
questions?
want.
Are you asking for yourself?
No, I'm asking for people. I'm putting myself in the shoes of people, audience, viewers, people that are thinking, for example, can I borrow to buy a car? Can I? Because the interpretation will be, I'm going to be paying transport. Instead of paying transport, let me buy the car. But we'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have you answer that as well.
No worries.
All right, you're welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking at credit scores in Nigeria, what it means, how to have a healthy credit score. And before we went on the break, we're speaking with Mr. Kalawajad, looking at what you can borrow money for and what you shouldn't borrow money for. So before I went on the break, I asked you about people who want to borrow money to buy cars, because the logic would be they're still spending money for transport. Car is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. And now this current administration, one of the gains of the current administration will be the MRIF. People are borrowing money to buy houses. Would you also consider that a worthy investment?
There's good debt, there's bad debt. What's good debt? The benefit of the loan exceeds the tenure and is cheaper. So let's use that criteria to then talk about a car. It's what type of car you are buying. If you borrow to buy a car and you are paying interest on the car long after the car has been depreciated, that's not a very, very good loan. I know the car is going to be a necessity, not a luxury, but the car is going to be, after 4 or 5 years, it's depreciated, right? But you're still paying a loan for more than that. So be careful about that. So it's a type of car, the cost of the car, the interest rate on the car. That's what you really have to focus on when you want to buy a car. For a mortgage, that's one of what we call a good loan, because you are taking a fixed loan to buy an asset that's going to appreciate, usually appreciates over time. So you live in that home, you need to pay rent, the home equity is yours. The tenure of the loan is usually going to be shorter than the life of the loan. So that can qualify as a good loan. Again, watch the interest rate, watch the tenure as well, but that's a good loan vis-a-vis taking a loan to, say, buy a consumable like a car or a generator. You've got to be very, very careful that you don't take the loan and the economic benefit is less than the cost of the loan. That's really what you want to watch out for in those kind of loans.
I mean, I remember while still working at my very, heydays, young, I took a loan to buy a generator and a small TV set.
Wow.
I worked, when it was time to pay every month and they were deducting that money, I could feel the pain. If I had my way, I wouldn't have done that.
The irony is that when you are younger, that's when you should take a loan. You need to accumulate assets with loans. So you want to buy income-generating assets with loans, right? Property, land, shares. You do that with loans because you don't earn enough. And then the hope is that as you work longer, those assets can pay themselves off. So interest-bearing loans for income-generating assets.
Interesting. Income-generating assets.
Joe, I hope that generator is generating
that generator
money for you.
It was just used in the house, so easy to watch Premier League. I don't say
a young Johansson.
But that was it.
Okay. So now let's go for people who already now have a poor credit score and are looking to rebuild their financial reputation. What are some of the steps that they need to take?
It's a very simple process. Great question. Number one, like I said, how you get a high credit score is if you pay on time and you keep a low balance on, especially your credit cards or your personal loans. So when you have a bad credit, it means you didn't pay on time and you put a lot of loans on your credit scoring, right? So how do you fix it? Get a card, pay on time, or your existing cards, start to pay them down. If you start to pay regularly, you are hitting your 35 points. Number two, if you start to reduce your credit, i.e. the debt you are carrying on your personal loan or your credit card, you are also hitting your 30%. So the way to do this, if you have loans, you list all those loans out, list everything out, rank them according to the most expensive interest rate or the lowest amount. You pick what you want to use. They're called avalanche or snowball. Either you pay the most expensive loan first, or you pay the lowest balance first, and then you try to eliminate those loans in a planned manner. But those two things is exactly what you do. You don't need to pay anybody. Pay your loans on time and reduce the balance. Your credit score starts to go up. That's how you fix it. In the US, they have what they call secured credit cards, where you can give a bank money and the bank gives you a credit card. That's a fantastic way to fix your credit, because you can use that secured loan and then pay and then create payments that are on time, and it helps with your credit score. Also helps you establish your credit score. But you don't get this done, and that helps with your credit score. Yeah.
Now let's talk about the Nigerian Credit Bureau. I believe they're the agency responsible for assigning whether a person is debt worthy or the credit score, so to speak. How does it work in Nigeria? Do we have a credit score system, or the Nigerian Credit Bureau just advises banks on an individual that, look, this person has a bad score, don't give loan to this person? How does it really work?
I think it works the same way. Nigeria has got 3 credit bureaus, 3 of them. I don't name them, 3 of them. And when you go to the bank to take a loan, they actually then run your credit. They do an inquiry called a hit on your credit score. And based on that result they get, it's one of the criteria they use to approve or reject a loan. They use that. They also use something called a debt to income. Because even though you have a good credit score, if you can't afford the loan, then you won't get the loan approved. So those 2 things are the key things they use: your credit score and your debt to income score. Together, that's, I think, about 80% of the decision they're going to make on your loan. So yes, I think they do follow exactly how the Americans do it. So what it means is that you've got to make sure as an individual, you are looking at your credit scoring. Even if you don't want to get a loan, I think you can get a free credit report from the bureaus. Take a look at it. Make sure there are no inquiries on your report that you did not do. So if you pull up your loan and you start to see a loan inquiry from a bank, but you didn't go to that bank to apply for a loan, you want to reach out and say, this was not me, so you can basically find someone trying to do identity theft on you, and you can close out that loophole. But you have to make sure you keep tabs on your credit report, because that's what the banks are going to use to say yeah or nay to your loan application.
I mean, what you just said now takes us to a very important aspect. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we did see fraudsters go after credit cards and so on. What's the risk of not protecting your credit score? Should it land in the hands of imposters, impersonators? What does this mean for you? We've heard and seen some criminals, as it were, holding on to cards, credit cards, and using it to live la vida loca, flourish lifestyle, and so on.
That's a very, very dangerous thing, right? Because if your identity gets stolen, you can get the money back, but it's very difficult to unwind your name or your social or your NIN that's being used for fraud. It's very, very difficult. So the best thing is not to get your identity stolen and to be used. I don't know if we have credit freeze in Nigeria. I know in the US and the UK, they have credit freeze where you can lock your credit up, and before someone can apply for a loan, you have to use like a PIN or a password. I hope we do in Nigeria, because that's going to be very, very essential. If you're not using your credit, you don't want to take credits, lock it up. When you want to use your credit score, then you then go apply your PIN and open it up for a week and apply. But once your identity is stolen, they flag it. I mean, in the US, there's going to be a flag on your account, and it's there for almost forever. And so it makes people ask you more questions. When you want to get a card or you're at the airport, they are looking at you funny because your identity has been stolen. They're trying to help you, but because it's been stolen, it's flagged. So you want to avoid that as much as possible. If you don't need a loan, Don't apply for a loan. When people go online and say, click here for this survey, don't click there for that survey, and pull your credit report, I would say twice a year. Take a look at it and make sure there's no inquiry you're not aware of on that report. Yeah.
Okay, for people who also have never gotten any form of credit before, is it safe to assume that someone who's never taken a loan, who's never used a credit card, has a great credit score?
No, you just have no credit, which is bad. So as soon as you can, as young as you can, try and get a loan. Even if you don't need a loan, try and get a 1,000, 10,000 naira loan and just pay it back on time so that it registers you as a good credit borrower. You just have it on file, you know. You borrow 100K, pay it back every month. It's going to register for you at the bureau. So when you really want a loan, they have a file on you, and that file shows that you borrowed and you paid back on time. It's easier abroad, right? You can get a credit card and just pay gas with the credit card and it registers for you. Nigeria, not so much, but if you can, I would advise, if you want to buy a consumable, just to register, buy a small, maybe like a small phone that you just put half of it on credit, right? Just so it registers. That's good advice for you, so that it's you are in the system, and when you really need credit, they already have your record. They can pull you up, and you have a pretty good score there.
That's pretty great advice, because I'm sure many people have never, borrowed money and don't even know how to even kickstart having a credit score in the first place. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much.
And for giving us the, areas not to
break down.
I'm sure my co-hosts, because I've been a very wonderful team player, they'll come together, get credit to buy me my next.
No problem, Olive. No problem. I also suggest that we have a sort of social credit bureau, non-banked, non-institutionalized, because many a times I find myself in a job, and then there are people with dubious reputation. When it comes to my turn to pay,
you don't want to talk about that, Joe.
They will now start giving excuses.
Last point, Ajo is wonderful for discipline, but if you're not going to be first or second, don't do it.
Ajo is low-key NMM.
You know the funny thing? I was the last. Benga was the seventh. Benga escaped. I'm so...
Yeah. It's very good for discipline. But because you are compounding without earning, it's a waste of your money. Because if you take sixth, you're giving guys an interest-free loan. Your money is like in a bank without paying you interest. You can now, we've got money market funds. You can do a job with yourself. You can open a money market fund, and every month you contribute to the money market fund, and it accumulates. Then you take those funds and you do something massive. Wonderful. You don't have to do a job again,
Or, like you've advised, if you're the first or the second person, as soon as you collect your money, quickly go and lock it somewhere with your money market so that it's generating interest.
If you do a job and you're the first, this is only for the guys that watch Breakfast Central. If you're the first, do a job. If you're the second, do a job. If you're third, don't do.
This should be our topic for next week. Ajo or Isusu.
Actually, now I'm looking for Ajo to do.
You are looking for who to
We can do three of us. No, I'll take.
I'll collect first.
Whoever is
I'll take first. Benga takes second.
I'll join you guys. We can do like $100 or something like that. I'll go first.
Mr. Kalu, thank you so much for joining us. We'll start from the lowest of the lowest, and then we'll climb.
Please,
or you will take last, maybe, so that.
But she travels a lot, and she's always changing her dresses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So when we're doing this, Joe, who's taking? I think
I'm not.
I did that
Joe with Benga for the same few times.
Did you get your money?
Yes,
of course.
We didn't have any issues, but
how much are you proposing?
But I agree. We can't say that.
We can't disclose, please. Don't put me under security risk.
Rich kids.
Top 10,000 naira.
Rich kids of Ikeja.
Let's not go there, please. Let's keep it confidential.
All right, we're starting breakfast. We'll announce the details.
The phone lines will be opened. Let's open the phone lines for all who can call in, and as we go straight to the front pages of the newspapers. But let's take a break first.
A few comments. I think somebody said, do not take a don't take a loan to pay your girlfriend's.
He said, don't borrow to buy phone for your babe. That's what Mokuye said.
Dear men.
But can I push back on that a little?
What do you mean push back?
Because he said, do not borrow to buy consumables. You should borrow something that will generate interest for you. When you buy phone for your babe gives you love. Your babe gives you peace of mind. Your babe gives you joy. Nothing is too expensive for your peace of mind.
So what if other men are buying her things? How would she now divide our love.
It depends on if she is from Delta State, where she has a big heart.
Okay,
you know, Delta State, the big heart. You have space. Everybody has compartments. Please, I don't endorse this now, joke. Let's go on a break. We'll come back and review.
I was waiting for you to finish, so I can ask: is this endorsed by Lady Olive?
Yes.
Break time. Thank you. Big bell for director.
This segment was brought to you by Zenith Bank.
So Mondays, the phone lines are open for our callers to start calling in. The phone number will be right there on the screen. Look out for it. Start dialing right away. Our producers are ready to take your calls and, of course, link you directly to the live studios. Let's start off with the front pages of This Nigeria. That's our first paper for a Monday morning. 2027 heat over APC campaign council. Yes, we have an update on that story. We hear President Bola Tinubu, it's just still a statement, has asked that the campaign council list should be looked into again.
Looked into for more additions.
For more addition.
Okay,
for review.
Robust.
For a review of the personalities that were not there. We hear Minister Festus Keyamo wasn't there, so people said, okay, maybe he should be added. You have others are equally not there. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives.
It's looking like almost the who is who of Nigeria's political juggernaut.
Yes, but no comment has been made about the issues that have been highlighted, about the personalities that have been added, who should be, answering cases. Nobody has said anything about that. But the phone lines, like we said, are opened. Let's get your thoughts. Heat over APC Campaign Council, NDC, ADC, SDP, others under pressure to unveil comparable teams. Serap demands INEC disclose donation limits. That's another one. Dangote expands free fuel delivery. Marketers seek lower prices. And this is our topic. Let's focus on this, guys, because I was asking this question up until yesterday night. Why is it that our fuel price has all of a sudden remained stuck at like 1,200 plus? Before the Strait of Hormuz, we're paying 900 and something naira.
800, I remember.
800 and something naira. As I speak now, 75% of my salary goes to fuel. With my calculation.
Not sustainable. Everyone is complaining. Barrister Ologo was complaining earlier. Doesn't make sense. 75%. And there's a transfer of costs to goods and services too. I don't know how people are coping, but we need an intervention.
1,200 Binga. It's been going on. They said it will come down.
Dangote increased the gantry price last week by a few nairas, and the reason was FX volatility. I mean, when is it coming down?
I want to ask you.
As far as I'm concerned, the Straits of Hormuz is still, it's a stalemate. They're not exchanging guns.
No fire, no guns. So why is the fuel price not coming down? Why is it that, the funny thing, for those who are watching, please, let's throw it to you. Do the search now. Google. Check how much other African countries that were completing initially and drew a map of how much
they are not even oil producing.
Some are not even oil producing, but guess what? Their prices have come down. In Nigeria, I stand to be corrected, and we're throwing this out in the open. Challenge this conversation and tell us that, no, it has come down, or it hasn't come down in other countries who initially were struggling with the increase in price or prices of premium motor spirit. What's going on?
You people that come from a long distance and then have to fuel your tanks, I really feel for you. I don't know if it's penny wise or pound foolish, because at the end of the day, I'm still going to drive the car. So whether I fill it once, I'm just kicking the can down the road. Whether I fill it or I buy 40K, or I will still have to buy petrol.
Or do what they call buy as you go. That's what Nigerians are doing. It's buy as you go.
But imagine you an olive, lump sum, once. Almost $100 to fuel your tank. It's absurd.
We're spending a lot of money. Let's not even talk about it.
Bag
you start to do the math of how much we're spending.
And you have to come to work.
You have to move around.
I mean, and this job is not something you can do remotely.
Very soon we'll start considering that at this point.
I mean, if it's remote, let's use your house as a studio, because you will cook lots of delicacies.
That's not a problem.
Okay.
Food and water.
Well, it's just that I still have to transport myself all the way.
Oh, all of a sudden it's not convenient because you have to transport yourself. Now you see the sacrifice we make.
Move to Ogba.
Let's see more stories on the front page of this Nigeria. Stakeholders fault remittance of unclaimed dividends to DMO. Military neutralizes 40 terrorists, fall attacks, recover weapons.
Good news.
That's good news. There's also a video circulating online.
Yes, God bless you.
Yeah, of the military guys who
it was
came,
spontaneous.
Everybody started clapping.
Coming back from a peacekeeping mission, and very on Nigeria. We appreciate them in our hearts and on Armed Forces Remembrance Day, but just seeing them in a uniform returning from a mission and people applauding them
morale high.
The morale was high
airport.
For their service. Brilliant video. We should use it. Maybe
maybe before we wrap up the show, we'll try as much as possible to have that that video up. Youth resort to gambling deepens poverty, crime risk in West Africa, according to a report. Benga, do you have anything to say about this, Benga?
I mean, you know, Nigeria is a country where you celebrate people, you have celebrities that can do things without consequences, and they don't even think about the moral responsibility or the higher good they're doing to the damage of people. Well, the government will look at it and say, look, the tax revenues we're getting from these gambling firms is a lot. So it's a positive, and there's a warning that comes with gambling, and it's 18 plus, it's an adult venture. So, but people don't know that the regulators need to do something about this, because it's becoming widespread. In every street corner, there's almost a gambling shop. There are youths. I remember when I was on radio, I had this topic on, and somebody called in and said, you know, if it wasn't because of this gambling, I would be living under the bridge, because that was the only way he could pay his rent. So they're selling hope to people. But the house would always win. It's not sustainable. You cannot always predict the outcomes. That's why it's called gambling for a reason. And the reason why I even raised that topic in the first place is because an apprentice stole money from his boss. He didn't win.
I remember how he's lavish.
He committed suicide. This one killed himself. And there are many cases like that. There are lives that have been destroyed. There are young Nigerians that think, you know, they can make a career out of this. They're not working. They're not going to school. They stake their school fees. So there's we really
very
need
addictive. People lose everything.
Look at the psychology, and maybe it's a topic we can treat as.
Yeah,
So the gambling challenge is also linked to our struggle with our inability to observe delayed gratification. We want things quick. We want things now. It's why people will fall for scams like MMM, and what's the most recent one? I've forgotten that one. How can I forget it? That's with a C, I think.
CBC.
CBEC.
CBEC. Thank you. It's why people fall for scams like that, because the idea of waiting, the idea of putting your money somewhere that will generate interest in the range of 18% or 19%, it's foreign to them. We like shortcuts. We like everything quick. So there's a moral decadence that is evidenced in the way our youths are resorting to gambling. They no longer, people don't want to work for money. It's why, how do you tell a young person who with one scam can make the money he will make from working in a corporate organization for 3 years just by one scam? Anyway.
We have Francis from Ekiti. Good morning to you, Francis.
Yeah, good morning.
I hope your surname is not Father Onsi.
It's from Ekiti, not Osun.
It's not from Osun State, okay.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice having you on the program today, and it's a beautiful topic that you guys are discussing. The issue of the fuel has become a headache for everybody in this country, and it seems that nothing government is doing about it. I can see from the dailies that the marketers are requesting for low price, but Ngozi is saying they want to do free delivery. And the ripple effect of these things go back to everything that people are consuming. The market is affected, movement is affected, production is affected. Manufacturers are crying. Everybody is having issue with this fuel issue. In fact, I can't remember how long I have a savings from my construction work. Because even workers, common aboki, the laborers use in the site, You have to increase their pay because of cost of transportation and because of their feeding too. You have to increase everything. Everything has to, but the money is not coming in like the way it's going out. It goes out, and the government just fold hand, and even with the citizens just fold a hand, feel like everything is okay. People just come up with different rules and go just keep governing us. We just take everything in the way we like. I can hear what you're saying. 75% of your salary is going on a fuel. How do we survive in this country? It seems that we are just commonly surviving. We are not living in the country. It's a terrible situation we find ourselves as an oil-producing country.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Francis.
I told you guys that a friend of mine recently moved to the UK, actually my cousin. And I told you recently how he got his accommodation. He asked the same question the scholar just mentioned. He said, Joe, what are you doing there? Are you really living?
So you are just surviving.
Surviving.
A lot of Nigerians are living from paycheck to paycheck, and that is not life. And the government's excuse, or what they say, is we're giving more money to
governors.
To governors. How does that change the fact that you could buy an egg, a crate of egg, for 900 naira a few years ago? Just a few years ago, not 10,000.
2 years ago.
Not 10 years ago. 3 years ago. 3 years ago. And it's now 6,000. So you giving more money to the governors, does that, what impact does it have on my purchasing power as an individual? You haven't affected my life positively.
Right. I want us to quickly, because we're almost out of time, I want us to take the Guardian newspaper, because there's a big story there that's very important. It relates to what we've discussed this morning on the show. 14 years after Ansari report, bloated agencies cost 1 trillion naira in 2026. In 2026 alone, bloated agencies have cost Nigeria 1 trillion naira.
Very pregnant.
Very, very pregnant. That's a topic that we should have.
That's why when we're talking,
even the committee to check the bloated agency,
they will still collect money.
The agency to make it further bloated.
So we have
not done anything.
We talked about the ministries. It's like a repetition. You have the Minister of Defense, right? You now have the Minister of State for Defense or so.
Yes.
You have that of State of, you have this, you have the National Assembly, which consists of course, the
Senate and the House.
The Senate and the House. And people have said, why do you have to? Even the report, why do you have to? Why do you need to have?
Let's look at the Ministry of Interior, for example. Do you know how many agencies, prison services, there under that ministry? And then look at the Coastal Road, for example. It wasn't created by an act of parliament. The Federal Ministry of Works that decided to have Coastal Road marshals. Money will be put aside for that. There was no act of parliament.
An agency will be set up.
Ministry of Mining. There's mining marshals.
There's mining marshals, mining guards. And then the forest guards that were set up recently. Under whose office are they in? And we hear that the forest guards are abandoning ship already. They are
there are no hunger.
They say hunger won't kill them.
Catching them. It's not by... I mean, we really need to look at the size of government, and we want a more efficient type of government.
Let's see more stories on the front page of The Guardian. Mixed reactions trail APC's campaign council membership. New page 3. We've talked about that this morning. We had a guest, Barrister Jide Ologu, who broke it down nicely, looking at Nigeria's, sections in the Constitution and using it to explain further. Governors now pay wages with devalued naira, says Afenifere. Afenifere has finally spoken out. One of the things that we hear from this administration is we have given the government more money. Recently, what economists have done, many have called them true economists. And I was wondering, why are they calling them true economists? They said because they are economists who stand for true reflection of things, and then they're the ones who just like to speak based on numbers and statistics. But economists have said we don't stand on either of the divide. Economists are an economist. Facts. And they've said that, listen, in short, let's ask ourselves, let's do it internally. 100,000 naira today is the new 20,000 naira. 100,000 naira
because what we've
is the new
seen is a
naira.
Nominal increase in the value, but the true value, the purchasing power of that naira has reduced. And it looks like what they were getting in the past
was higher.
What was higher.
How do you
look at, if you do the conversion, the US dollar.
I use the minimum wage.
Yeah.
70,000 naira.
I want us, as we are wrapping up
feel
the
a
show,
tank?
we can't not but take the story on the bottom left corner of The Guardian. Taiwo Hassan is a Nigerian actor and a screenwriter.
Popularly known as Ogogo.
Ogogo, he died.
Sad.
Recently, his daughter had put out a video. I know what's even sad about his death is the fact that they found out he had stage 4 cancer barely 3 weeks before he died.
No checkup.
So it was just literally, the daughter did a video saying all the doctors are refusing to treat him because they say it's too far gone, and that they only just found out 3 weeks before. It degenerated so quickly. I pray for comfort for his family, for his fans, and the Nollywood industry. This has been a really hard year, if we're being honest. It's been like death upon death. Nollywood has taken a hit with Ike Ogbonna. I've forgotten the other lady who also died not too long after. Now him. There's been a lot of deaths. It's been a really heavy year.
Yeah.
So for everyone who has lost someone, we just pray that you find comfort in the memories that you've shared with them. Taiwo Hassan has left a beautiful legacy. We will always watch his movies and remember how much of a gift he is to us. A gift he was and is. And I use is because in the lives, exactly, his legacy lives on, and in the lives of people who love him, he never dies. And that's how we wrap up today.
Well said. Before we wrap up, we just need to wrap up with the video we talked about. The video has been circulating online showing the return of Nigerian soldiers from a mission keeping, and Nigerians couldn't hold but put their hands together for them. It's one of the first things you'd see, especially in public. Nigerians would always say, like Benga said, from their heart, but this is it, being shown public.
Very heartfelt.
Yeah.
Moral. Hi.
We'll leave you with this video as we wrap up. Thank you so much for watching Breakfast Central.
And yes, shout out to the men and women of the Nigerian Armed Forces for doing the job they do. It's a very risky and dangerous job for keeping us safe and together as a country. Yeah.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Take a look at the video as we wrap up. Bye.